Good morning, good afternoon, and good evening, and welcome all to the Atlanta Community Open Grand Finals in partnership with CMG, featuring Rocket League. That's what we're here for, powered by Skillshot. My name is Trevor Caribou McNeil, and I have the pleasure to go out lakeside today, go bass fishing, and bring in our resident expert, the one that puts the backpack on for all of us, Bass from the past. And I could not be more excited to have this plus one alongside me. Bass, how are you doing, man?
I'm doing fantastic. I'm very excited to be back here with the Invitational, the Atlanta Open, yet again. It has been a while since I got to see some of this 2v2 Rocket League action, but being here for the finals makes up for all of it. There are a ton of incredible teams here tonight, all battling for their share of that $500 prize pool.
That $500 cash money, that's what everybody's looking at. And of course, it took a little bit to get here. You mentioned those incredible teams we have. We can take a look at the path that took them here. Qualifier number one started out on the 5th of August. Every Thursday, 3 qualifiers a month to get to the finals. 175 on the line for each of them. And as you mentioned, with those incredible teams to qualify out of every single one of those, some of them making their return, some of them coming back to try to get a little more cash money out of those prize pools for each qualifier. But it just never seemed like in all 3 qualifiers that there was ever an easy route to get your name here today to the finals. Whereas you mentioned that $500 prize pool on the line, and no one wants to go home empty-handed today.
No, not at all. Everybody has competed in very tough qualifiers, like you had mentioned, to get here, and they all equally think they can take it. A couple of front runners definitely coming here and there, but overall, this is going to be a battle to the very bitter end. A battle which, by the way, is going to be single elimination. Everybody here has to be able to play to the best of their abilities in every single series that they participated in. Otherwise, it is win or go home. Trevor, we are in for a treat today.
A treat is an understatement about that, because of the fact that these players obviously want some of that $500 prize pool, and of course it will be split, of course, between top 3 payouts. So it's like what, $350, I think, for first place, at $125 and $75. That's not right. That's not right. I'm not
very
good
close.
Don't
it is $350 going to first. It's second place taking 100 and third place taking 50. Still a good chunk of change for every single team here. At minimum, if you take third place, that is $25 per person. But that first place definitely going to be sweet at $175 a person. Not only is that going to equal the payout of one of the qualifiers, it is going to be per person. They get that. It's kind of crazy here, Trevor. There's a lot of money on the line for a lot of really good players. But at the end of the day, there can only be one winner. Again, the single elimination bracket is really going to keep this one tense.
Yeah, and of course, watching all of these teams that have got through here, we've seen a lot of incredible teams that did not make it here as well. And of course, we can take a look at some of the highlights for those that are represented and those that are not in our August top 10 plays coming in from the Atlanta Community Open. Starting out at number 10, we do have Joro, one of the names not here, with this great patience, great read from the midfield. Nice little approach and shot to the upper 90. They go ahead and give them that go-ahead goal in the closing seconds of their game.
Just such nice accuracy, top right corner. But we're going to switch this one up for number 9 here. We're going to bring in Wavi to show you some of the defense. Smokestick's a nice shot, but the save is even nicer. Remember Wavi's name. He's going to pop up a couple of times here because he is a defensive masterclass, and already showing that at number 9.
Number 8, we can see Toxic just racing downfield, trying to get past the defense. Does, and after a short conversation with that post, ends up getting the convincing point to get the ball across the line and tie things back up.
Oh, what a nice little play there, but this angle might be even a little bit more intense. Dark light from the corner.
Oh.
I don't know how you even think to go for an angle like this. It's absolutely ridiculous, and the fact he pulls it off with such nice fashion. This is a team we're going to see here today. Make sure to watch your eyes for Dark Light.
And we're not done with Dark Light. Coming in at number 6, we see Dark Light and Aegis both with this great little 1-2 over the top of Kiernan, who could do nothing but watch in shock and awe and then follow up with the demolition. But a nice little pass, good handoff there to give them that goal to close the gap.
Definitely a nice team you're going to want to watch out for here today. Another team that we've watched out for a couple of different qualifiers. This team with a meal on it who can make saves like that. Double touch off the backboard. Most players don't have the patience, but my oh my, what a save this is. And with 10 seconds left, it secures them the game. Defensive masterclass here today so far.
We got another great little 1-2 of Team Vo, who unfortunately kept finding their exit in the quarterfinals every time they would take a chance at it. But Crevo lays this one up for Mevo, who with that little redirect gets it behind the defender, overcommitted to the left side.
Speaking of 1-2 punches, again, these passing plays continue here. Skame, though, with the weirdest flick I have ever seen. The amount of power behind it, and it sets up his teammate perfectly. Moray going to take the follow-up touch. This is 1-2 combo. Again, some really good teams coming in here today, and even of those that we will not see, they'll be playing polls or making plays like that all day.
Team mentioned as one of our front runners to keep an eye on today. We feature Jala Ding, who gets his shot denied right here, but on the other side, take a look at Toxic, who gets the coast-to-coast clearance. There's nothing you can do. Can't get back fast enough. Toxic's going to get that one, which is their go-ahead goal early on in this game, but both of these teams are going to be here to make a statement today.
And another similar defensive play going to continue to show itself here as we wrap up with our final number one play of the day. I mentioned him earlier. I'm going to mention him again. Wavi with just some unreal defense. 2 saves in a row. Pinches against the post, and then the follow-up over the last defender. Defense, a huge thing here today. Wavi, unfortunately, I don't believe made this final. But hey, there's always more chances in the next month. And I can tell you what, every single team here today is of the utmost caliber.
Yeah, and as we have mentioned, these teams that have shown up today, top 8 were the ones beneficial enough to get here. Top 3 out of qualifier 1, 3 out of qualifier number 2, and the top 2 out of the third and final qualifier, which leads us here to the top 8. And we can take a look at the bracket to see who will be facing off to begin with. And that, good lord, of course, it is randomized. Once again, there is no explicit seeding in this one, but that number 1, number 8, theoretical matchup between Amberquesa and Top Cougars, that's a grand finals count. I mean, granted, all of these really are, but that one right there, I think, is the worst draw you could possibly get, because that's probably the hardest matchup you're going to see all day.
Oh, 100%. Those are 2 teams that could take this the entire way here. Ambergesa, a team that we've seen multiple times throughout these tournaments. Top Cougars, another team we've seen multiple times throughout this tournament. And it's one of these things where, like you said, either one of these teams could probably take it all the way. But hey, luck of the draw, they're going to have to face each other in round number 1 here. I'm interested to hear your thoughts on this one, though, Caribou. Both of these teams are extremely capable. Do you have a favorite going into that matchup?
Off the gate, I'm going to call it for Ambergesa. I do think that they probably take that edge because they've already done it once before. But to run down the rest of the bracket, we got LGBT Discombobulated Banana, which is conveniently shortened to DB. And I love that because that's a mouthful right there. And I think that's actually going to be a really even matchup as well. A representative from number 2 and number 3 qualifiers, anti-respectively. That's Bananas coming out of number 2, LGBT from number 3. But then Gambling Problems, Night Guard, and Cheese, I think is going to be another really interesting matchup. I think all 4 of those teams on the bottom half are... that's probably the harder side of the bracket because those 4 are all so evenly matched, and it's going to be so difficult to be able to get out of that one unscathed, to be able to try to then face off as what I would assume and predict that number 1, number 8 between Ambergris and Top Cougars is probably going to be the one that you'll have to face off there in the finals.
I would agree with you on that one. At the end of the day, there are a couple of really good teams in the upper bracket. I would say LGBT is going to be another team to watch out for. Just some really good ones players between the 2 of them there. But it's going to be an interesting one to see what these teams are able to pull out once it gets deeper into the day. One of the biggest things we always talk about here in a tournament environment like this is A, the fact that it's single elimination. You don't have times where you can miss, where you can't play to your peak, and B, you have to be able to do that over a very extended period of time. 3 matches in a row here. They're going to take a couple of hours for each one of these teams, and if they don't think about winning for even a moment, they might just have their chances snatched up like that. It's going to be an interesting day here, Caribou, and I'm very excited.
Yeah, gonna be an absolute banger. Really every single matchup that is going to be going on, because you just cannot ask for anything better. These are the top 8 teams that qualified out of a conglomerate, probably 80, 90 teams probably, that were putting their name into the hat before they got to this point. So this is like that top 10% of these teams to get here today, and I'm very excited for that one. We can talk about, what it will take for these guys to eventually come away with the victories. We've already got some precedent set, as I mentioned, Amberguesa taking the W in a series over the likes of Top Cougars in their first qualifier, which would lead them eventually to that qualifier number 1 championship. So there's already some semblance of pecking order built out here. But I think in agreement with you that this is going to be a thing where you have to have these teams really come out of the gate playing their best ball. And if you're not doing that, if you don't come here ready to play today, you're going to find a very early exit in this bracket.
Yeah, I think that's the biggest thing here is making sure that you really are on point from the moment you get into this bracket here. All of these teams are very experienced, not only in this 2v2 environment, but just in really, really high levels of Rocket League in general. A couple of these players having experience in RLCS, for a matter of fact. It's just going to be an interesting thing where if you are not ready today, you're most likely going to get taken by surprise, and all of a sudden a team's just going to run straight past you. Like you said, every single one of these teams is very capable. I really do feel like any part of the bracket could end up winning this one today, and it really wouldn't be that surprising of a turnout.
Yeah, and of course, a little bit of extra something on the top where you get these best of 5 series now as opposed to the best of 3s in the qualifier. So you at least have a little bit of a breath to be able to get a chance to bounce back and rebound if you don't have a game 1, game 2 that goes your way. So there is at least a little bit more room, margin of error, but you still don't want to be in a situation where you find yourself down 2-0 after those first couple of games. And to go into this one to start out, very excited. As we said, all 4 of those matchups in the beginning are going to be absolutely incredible. I think everybody's top Cougars is going to be the one that is going to have the most fireworks. We can talk about Night Guard and G's and gambling problems as to where we're going to go in this first one. But of course, all of you watching on Twitch, you can keep up the conversation on our social media, hashtag IATLGG. You can go to IATL.gg on the website to get all the information, all the background. Of course, look at all the qualifiers and the brackets of how we got to this point. And use those hashtags. Use them on Twitter, at Skillshot Media, at Confused Caribou, at Bass from the Past. It is like it is. Talk to us. Tell us what you think. Who you got winning today? I want to know.
Well, I mean, listen, I can give in my opinions, but definitely want to hear the audience's opinions as well here. But if we're going to go into a little bit of a breakdown of who we think is taking this one overall, I've got to give it to either Top Cougars or Hamburguesa. Whoever takes it out of that top matchup, I really do feel like are just going to have enough momentum. Again, I talk about RLCS experience. Louis P is one of the best players in European RLCS right now. The man has absolutely been dominating the scene, just continually going upward every time that I see him play. And I feel like if you're able to take down a win against a player like that, especially when they're with Jollading, it's going to just give you a lot of momentum going into the day. Top Cougars did not need any extra momentum going into today, but Caribou, I really do feel like that first matchup is going to be incredibly influential on the outcome of this whole entire bracket.
Absolutely. And I think we're both in agreement that the winner out of that one probably will be a team that finds their way into the grand finals here today. But as we say, Gambling Problems, Night Guard, and G's, 2 teams that have, I think there's obviously good play from both of them. We've seen Kiernan and Stealth on Gambling Problems versus Kemi and Storm on Night Guard and G's. But there's a degree of inconsistency with both of these teams that if they don't show up playing at their ceiling, that anyone can take full advantage of this series to really walk away with this W, because this bottom half, I think, is going to be a lot scrappier of a matchup at the bottom half of the bracket. And these 2 teams, I think, I think all 4 of those teams actually pair up very well against each other to make for really quality gameplay setups to, fight your way through the bracket. And I could not ask for a better 1-2 out of these ones, because when we did see them play, when we did see them in their qualifiers, they were there and really impressive. Especially you look at the defensive play from Kiernan, you look at the synergy from Kemi and Storms, like they just were able to play together so well. And there's a reason that they're here today.
Oh, 100%. I mean, the truth of the matter is that both of these teams are extremely capable. Again, as we keep on mentioning, though, it's who shows up on the day that really makes all the difference here. I really am looking more at Gambling Problems, though, for the team to show up on the day here, just because of the fact that they are, at least from my background, very, very good individual players. Both of these guys are competitors in top 100 ones. They play a lot of 1v1 gameplay, and it really does create them as a solo very good player. Does that always translate in a team environment? Well, we're going to have to find out. If they click well, I really do think they're another really, really good contender to just take this entire tournament, but it really depends on the day. If they can play well, I think they might just have a shot at getting to the grand finals, but if they seem a little bit off and the cohesion isn't necessarily there, this could be a very short run for Gambling Problems.
Yeah, it's a matter of, can they actually start out the way that they want to? And we'll take a look to see if they can as we get into game number 1 here of our Atlanta Community Open Finals. Of course, still curious as to who you guys got winning all of this one. So all of you at home, make sure you get your predictions in. Let us know as we are starting out here with Kimmy and Storms on the orange, and already nice little backflip from Stealth to keep that one out. Crossbar, no help whatsoever, but still dangerously looming in front of the net here. Finally, after 3-4 more attempts, we get the first goal scored. Night Guard and G's take the lead.
There it is, after an absolute onslaught of shots here. This felt a little bit inevitable, and to be honest, this isn't that surprising of a start off here for Gambling Problems. Like we said, they might start off a little bit shaky. It's whether or not they find the cohesion as this game goes on that really is going to make the difference. But another good thing, it's a best of 5. They've got plenty of time to try and get warmed up here, which they really need to do, as they've let way too many shots already go against them here. Night Gardens with 2 offenses within the first 30 seconds. Luckily enough, though, for Gambling Problems, they will get a chance on attack here. Finally approaching Kiernan with an open net, but can't quite get past the last defender. Night Gardens, in just the littlest fashion, will be able to hold on for now and keep that 1-goal lead. Oh, 2-goal!
Nice little rebound. Good read from Chemis. He's going to be able to come in there from the left side and get that shot on, put it inside the post. After that nice little disruption of the defender as well, Stealth got knocked out of the play. So, yeah, now a 2-goal lead here in the first 60 seconds for Night Garden, as Gambling Problems are having more problems than just gambling right now, as they can't quite find that play style that they're trying to go for. They can't quite get this. Nice little set up there, and Kiernan's going to execute on that one. They're going to get one back for great aerial control from Stealth. Kieran, it's the final goal.
That was a really nice shot from Kiernan, recognizing the little bit of weakness and awkwardness from the defenders there. And to be honest, that's what Gambling Problems need to do. They need to keep Night Gardens out of their own half. As much as that seems simple, it's becoming kind of difficult, especially when you don't get the kickoff. I think both teams just tried to fake it, and then as a result, it just kind of loomed there. Kemi coming away the benefactor of everything, and unfortunately for Gambling Problems, like you said, their problems are just only continuing.
Yeah, and that's just, again, a good read, good understanding of recognizing the defense is putting themselves out of position after, as you said, that fake to open up. And right now, Night Garden have come out of the gates here really strongly. And as we mentioned, this is a very crucial point to be able to perform and play well today, is if you can come out game number 1, series number 1, acting like you're ready to win a championship, then by all means, you're going to earn your ticket there, because you take any time at all wasted, you're not going to make it. As Kiernan, a great carry, almost end-to-end in the air, finally gets enough of a touch there and just sneak it in, get past the defense. Impressive play, and that's that individual play you were talking about.
Exactly. That's the individual skill that we're looking to Gambling Problems for in this game. But again, it is going to be a little bit concerning if that's the only thing they go for. Like we said, cohesion amongst the two players is going to really benefit them. And so far, it's been a lot of solo plays after a lot of other solo plays. Speaking of solo plays, though, Kiernan with pretty much the most open net I've seen all game there. Pretty standard shot, but unfortunately off target, and then as Stealth tries to go for it, and so does Kiernan. They double commit. It just looks kind of awkward right now, to be honest, Caribou. Gambling Problems look individually pretty skilled, but they just keep messing up their rotations, and it leaves them so awkward and so vulnerable. Another example of that, as they let in a pretty easy goal. This should have been cleared very, very early on.
Yeah, and just, you see that awkward positioning. Stealth and Kiernan both just kind of camped out right there in the box. Neither one of them really had an idea as to which direction to go. Stealth flipping out of the play. Kiernan already had committed just by the angle of the vehicle out of the back half of the box, or out of the goal. So there's just not a lot to be said from that one. So instead, another 2-goal deficit has come back, coming up on the halfway point here. The Night Garden have just been able to put on a lot of pressure here on one side, and they continue to do so, where Gambling Problems are still having these issues where they just can't quite come online.
This is just an awkward play all around here. Again, this feels like something that could have been prevented with a tighter rotation and a more well-thought-out cohesion amongst the two players here. Gambling Problems running into the same problems on repeat right now. They're still playing this one like they're doing it individually. They need to work as a team. Night Garden are just playing this one safe right now. They are waiting for mistakes out of Gambling Problems, waiting for that awkward little over-aggression, and then capitalizing on the counterattack. It's a great strategy, especially when your opponents don't seem to have any sort of counter. And again, speaking of over over-aggression here. The pre-jump from Kiernan leaves him so incredibly vulnerable, and Kemi will take full advantage of that.
Yeah, just going in the air, already committing yourself up. Kemi's going to keep it low and punch that one in. I think at this point, this is almost a recognition of, okay, this is our warm-up game from the side of gambling problems. Sure, you can get a few back, and there's still a lot of time left. I mean, in Rocket League, there's still a ton of time here, but a double demo is definitely going to give you the opportunity you need to be able to get that ball across open net, and good, at that point, good communication. Make sure that the defense is just not even in the picture to get one back, but you're still down 3 goals.
Not only are they down 3 goals, but it took everything they had to get that goal there. Again, the aggressiveness we're seeing out of gambling problems, it might be working out, well, not even really working out here in game number 1, and it might be working out in small instances, but long term, this just doesn't seem that viable. Eventually, they're going to find a team that's got a much stronger attack than the 2 players on the field right now, and will have a little bit more of a better counterattack overall as well. And to be honest, it could even be Night Gardens further into this series. As it stands right now, gambling problems are really doing well when they're on offense, but their defense and their preparedness for counterattacks just looks lackluster. Again, another instance of this is Kemi just has free reign in the corner here. Kiernan desperate to get back and just pops us into the air, but unfortunately, not much that they can do with this. Stealth pushed way too far up, and again, this over-aggression from gambling problems is leaving them so vulnerable in so many different instances.
Yeah, and it's really on brand for them. I mean, you wouldn't expect much else from these two, as they just want to keep pressing the issue and keep trying to strike back in this one. But now, unfortunately, time is not their friend, as there's 1 minute and 12 seconds to go here. Kiernan's going to try to carry this one all the way in, but unfortunately, we'll find 2 defenders. Watch the putback, though, from Stealth. That's the benefit of that. Kiernan gets both defenders to commit to this block, which leaves Stealth patiently waiting to get the nose on and punch it back. Squishy could not come soon enough. So now, 2-goal deficit, 67 seconds, not out of the question. They got to make sure that they act a little bit faster between 1 goal and the next than they did compared to the last one.
Yeah, they just need to keep going with what's working for them and trying to avoid as many mistakes as possible. That's the first real mistake we've also seen out of Night Garden pretty much this whole game. They've played pretty well on defense, aside from a couple of minor errors, but the double commit there left them extremely vulnerable. As long as they don't make risky plays like that for the next 45 seconds, I think they've still got this first game in the bag, but it's starting to look like gambling problems are figuring out a way for this offense to start working. I don't think it's 100% foolproof at this point, but if they can keep up with this aggression at a good midline of it, not too overly aggressive, not too committed, they might start to find some more success in their offense.
They'll start to spend a lot more time down here on this side of the field, I think, which does bode well, not necessarily for this one, but for the next game. Because looking at it, yeah, of course, with 15 seconds on, both players coming out of this one. Now it's a single goal here, only 13 seconds left, but this is absolutely feasible. We talked about how much time they're spending down here. They're taking all that boost out of the pocket of Night Guard and G's, who just have not been able to get out of their defensive zone here. And that is why we see gambling problems have answered 3 goals in a row now. Can they find the last one they need to tie this game up?
I mean, if they do this, I'm not necessarily going to be surprised, but at the same time, Night Garden, as long as you don't make some glaring errors here, you should be okay. Just get this one to the ground, and they're not going to do so. Storm not going to even try to approach on the corner, so Kemi's touch is just going to leave this one in the air. Kiernan's got time and space. As long as he can dribble, no way! We're going to overtime! Gambling Problem's going to find their 6th goal at the 0-second mark, and this, you can kind of tell, was starting to develop as soon as the under-aggression in the corner.
Yeah, just the little hesitance to be able to make that approach, and you just saw Stealth escorting the defense out of that box, took them all the way out to midfield to let Kiernan carry that one in, and now all of a sudden, 4 unanswered, looking to try to make it 5, and they do. 5 in a row, and gambling problems come storming back against Night Guard and G's to be able to take a 6-second overtime victory, where I was already counting them out with 2 minutes left to go, down 6-2. They proved me wrong.
They proved both of us. I'm stunned. I actually don't know what to say right now. Most of the time when you see a series like this, it feels like something just started to fall apart for the team that blew the lead. But, I mean, aside from a couple of little hesitations there, it didn't really feel like Night Gardens were playing all that poorly. It just, all of a sudden, gambling problems figured out what they needed to do on offense and just took 3 goals in a row out of nowhere.
Yeah, it took about 90 seconds for them to figure out that too, because they were yeah, like I said, it was down 6-2 at the 220 mark, and then they got one back, and then after that, it was a long lull. But then with about a minute left, they really turned it on and turned that pressure up. And with that goal to make it one down with 13 seconds left, you think, okay, there's a chance, yeah, but all the other team has to do is just make an approach, step to the ball, contest it, put it on the ground, something, zeros on the board. I mean, there has to be something you do instead of just watching the other team dribble this down the field. And that's exactly what we saw Kieran and Stealth able to do. And plus that overtime, dude, the go ahead, that's just clinical. I mean, they just take the defense out of the play and they get themselves in position. A huge momentum swing in game number 1, where we thought Night Garden really came out of the gate swinging, and all of a sudden, after that last 90 seconds, gambling problems looks like a problem that Night Garden's going to have to figure out.
Yeah, 100%. At this point, it really does seem like gambling problems are just finding the efficiency we had been talking about here. And in Game 2, this is something that Night Guard need to try and slow down as much as possible. If they can just get them to hesitate a little bit on their offense, they should be able to handle this team. But unfortunately, no such hesitation. Kieran trying to go for a ground pitch out the gate. And, you know, that confidence in that little bit of solo play we were hoping to see out of gambling problems, I think it's finally starting to click, and we might see some absolutely insane goals from here on out. Oh, speaking of which, please. Oh, so close.
Almost, and instead it's going to start to go the other way. Stealth's going to miss on the putback, but Kieran's there to save the day coming across the field. But just the individual skill of both of these players allows them also to set up the other player just for a rebound or just for a read off of the defensive commitment to be able to then find an open angle and find a better angle off the shot. Stealth's just going to put it off the backboard where Keenan's going to come in, and exactly like that, they open up, they read the defense, they create an opportunity for the number 2 follow. Kieran takes a little loop around, both defenders out of the equation, and gambling problems take the 1-0 lead.
And this is unfortunately something we kind of knew was going to happen with gambling problems. As they got further into the series, they'd get a lot warmer, they'd get a lot stronger as an offense, and unfortunately for Night Gardens, they're starting to really feel the pressure of that. They're recognizing each of these players and their individual skill and are panicking when even one of them goes up. Speaking of which, another example of that, as Kieran gets the whole defense to jump, and Stealth just have to wait in the wings and find a 2-goal lead.
And this is just the breakdown of play that we've seen gambling problems do to so many teams. You just have to respect the individual skill of one of these two players. It doesn't matter which one it is. They're virtually interchangeable. But it's typically, you see one with the open up, gets a 1.5 commit. Like, it doesn't even have to be a full double commit. You get 1.5, and they are just pouring it on now. It took 90 seconds in game 1 for them to figure it out. It took 10 seconds in this one, and gambling problems with a 3-0 lead are in complete control now.
And the problem is this is kind of a snowball effect now for Night Garden at this point. They need to try and just take a deep breath here and go back to the defense they were playing in Game 1. We were complimentary of the fact that they just looked prepared for gambling problems in Game 1. Now, all of a sudden, in Game 2, it's just going from bad to worse. Gambling problems just continually putting shot after shot after shot after shot, and Night Garden trying to match their aggression to a degree here, Caribou, and it kind of feels like that's probably the worst idea of what they could do. Trying to play a little bit more passive kind of feels like the right move right now.
Yeah, just at least try to slow the tempo of this game, as you mentioned, off the kickoff. Just letting Kieran and Stealth play at their pace is never a good sign, because they are just going to outpace you every single time, and they're going to be able to find a hole in your defense, where find a misrotation, or be able to win off on a rebound off of backboard play. Instead, you have to be able to slow the game down a little bit, get them out of their element, because right now they are just, they've pitched a tent and they are camping in that element. Then there's nothing that Night Garden has been able to do to break them out.
I mean, there's the patience we're hoping for. Night Garden finally let gambling problems just kind of run on their offense and do what they want. And oh my word, the counterattack. There's what we said earlier was going to be the problem for gambling problems, was they were not going to be able to get back on counterattacks. And indeed, they do not. Stealth desperate to make a save. But finally, Night Garden end the drought after 7 uncontested goals in a row.
Which by itself is an incredible statistic. And now I'll still hold on to a 4-1 lead here, 3 minutes to go. I mean, this is a point where you talk about with the 6-2 in game number 1, you started to wonder, okay, is this really going to be the position where we find ourselves to maybe go next? You know, chalk this up in the L column, but we've seen very quickly how one team can turn this around. And with half of the game only gone, there's still plenty of opportunity. And I think the fact that you haven't seen just the outright firing of gambling problems on the goal is a good thing for Night Guard. It's a good sign, because the less time they spend on offense is the more time you get to apply that slow, methodical pressure here to the gambling problems defense.
And they're just trying to break down that pace of play. It does look like they're recognizing that they need to play a little bit slower, force gambling problems into overextending themselves. And, ooh, that really shouldn't have been a shot in the first place. I have no idea how Kiernan was able to get to that shot, because it just looks so... I don't know. This is just kind of awkward right now. It really feels like Night Guard have got to get something, together here, and they cannot. And, well... This is kind of unfortunate for them. It does kind of seem like this is only going to be the beginning of their problems, because they're down 5-1 against gambling problems, and they have to wait on either Amber Geysa or Top Cougars later in the bracket. If they can't get something together here, this is going to be a very difficult day for them, Caribou.
Yeah, they ended up losing in the semifinals to Amber Geysa in that first qualifier, and in the second one, virtually at the exact same point where they would leave out in that one, quarters of the semis. And this is a team that Troy and I were talking about that consistently, they're always there, right? They're always in that position, but they just have never been able to break that threshold and get a leg up on the competition. But now we start to see Kemi here and Storms trying to storm back into this one. They're down 3 goals now after a little trade-off 1-for-1. But minute 45 to go here. Night Guard's offense is seeing some life in this game, but not nearly the amount that we saw for them opening up in game number 1.
Yeah, they just don't seem to have, oh my word, the same efficiency as before. It felt like once they got into offense, they really locked their opponents into that offense for such an extended period of time. And to be honest, I didn't think they'd be able to do it here either. There was an easy clear out for, I believe it was Kiernan. No stealth, the one off the backboard. And honestly, either one of them could have made a touch. No such luck in Night Guard. And all of a sudden, they're right back into this one.
Right where we were, game 1. We saw a 4-1 scoreline here. Thought maybe this is going to be enough for gambling problems to continue to pour it on and accent their lead, but instead Night Guard crawling back and clawing back into this one. Kemi's going to try to carry all the way through, but Kiernan will get the save and deflection off, but they're not done on this attack. They are behind a defense. That's going to be wide open now. Nice little 1-2 off the wall. Kemi will finally get the goal that they asked for, and now it is only a 1-goal difference.
Oh my word, that was probably the poorest rotation we've seen from gambling problems all day. Kiernan makes the save, Zardy going to the corner to follow it up, and Stealth just decides, I'm going to do the same thing. Like a puppy dog, running right behind him. No such luck at all for the defense to even be there. And once again, what is going on here? Gambling problems really struggling on defense. And, I mean, this was the problem we knew about. They just didn't spend a lot of time on their back half. Now, all of a sudden, Night Guard are starting to get an offense together. They're recognizing these holes, and whenever gambling problem gets into their own half, they just don't know what to do. Finally, they get out of their own half, but can they keep it here and get a little bit more of a lead? Because with 45 seconds left and only a 1-goal lead right now, I am not confident that we're going to have gambling problems win this game, let alone even see an overtime.
Yeah, certainly have put themselves a little bit back against the wall, where again, another momentum shift. Watch the contest will come through as they get the tying goal, 33 seconds, and they're just able to outright bully the defense down right in their face, stealing that ball off the hood and winning that 50 to put it in. 33 seconds, momentum completely on the side of Night Guard, a complete reversal of what we saw in game number 1.
I mean, it's kind of crazy. I truly do believe we're not even going to see an overtime here. Gambling problems look like they're panicking. They just don't know what to do here. If they can take a deep breath and try and play a little bit more defensively, they should be okay. But look at that. Again, over-aggression. Stealth passes to the other team here. Night Guard need to take advantage of this panic right now, because as soon as they hit overtime, all of a sudden that's a chance for a reset for gambling problems to just take a deep breath and get back into their own momentum and back into their own confidence. But we're not going to see it. There's no way. This has got to be a shot. A follow-up. Storm has it on target, but it will be saved. Stealth with the last-second save, and maybe, just maybe, that can be the momentum that gets gambling problems right back on track.
They finally get a defensive stand, and it's at the most crucial time with zeros on the board. Still trying to carry this one in. Kiernan with the putback is going to get it, sneak it in under the crossbar. So one more time. We don't like regular time finishes. We'll take it to OT, and we see gambling problems take away another one. a sigh of relief on their side. Night Guard and just frustration, I can only imagine, now finding themselves down 2-0 in this series. But what a way to fight back from the Night Garden side, and what we both thought was going to be enough for them to claw back, to take the lead, and take that game back. Instead, the overtime special coming from Gambling Problems, which I think is not something they should get used to and not something they should rely on.
I would agree with you on that. It's cutting it a little bit too close for comfort here. It does feel like Gambling Problems are still running into the same issues as they had in game number 1, just starting to find a little bit more efficiency when it comes to their offense. Similarly, though, Night Guard, that was, in my opinion, your game to win. You guys threw that one away at the end there. That shot needed to go in. I knew as soon as overtime hit, all of a sudden, Gambling Problems would just get that 1 second to reset, and they'd be right back on track, and that's exactly what happened. They got out of their own half, saw a little bit of good offense momentum, and just scored upon that. This is a big issue for Night Garden right now. It does feel like they are in this game, but it's only when the momentum is in their favor. If they're a little bit discouraged, they start to look a little bit panicked, and they don't really know what they're doing. They need to figure out ways to mentally reset themselves, aside from it either going to a kickoff to where they can kind of reset, or it going into a point where they see some weakness out of their opponents.
And I got to give all credit to Night Garden for what they were able to do in that game. I mean, after we saw Gambling Problems really come out swinging, this was an incredible comeback from Night Guard. They were slowed the game down. They got the Gambling Problems offense completely out of their synergy to be able to really put Night Guard in a position where they could score their own goals to claw back into that one. But again, as you mentioned, it's a little bit of a throwaway there, which I think is even more heartbreaking because you look at it, it was a 6-2 scoreline in game number 1. They came screaming back in game number 2. So technically, both of those in position of a throwaway, which is never what you want to see. But at least coming into game number 3, it looks like mental's okay as they open up with the first goal 5 takes in.
I gotta wonder what happened there for Gambling Problems. That was, again, panic on the defense here. I'm gonna keep reiterating the same things we mentioned in game number 1, because it does kind of feel like the series has been stuck, permanently in that sort of feeling of game number 1 here. Gambling Problems might be finding some good offense here, and they're starting to find some success in the way that they're playing right now, but I am very concerned if they make it out of this series, how successful they're going to be against other teams further in this bracket. Right now, their over-aggression is... Wait, no, really? Is this going in? It is. Kemi's going to find another goal. And again, it's just too risky. It just looks disorganized. It looks weird. And I'm going to be honest, I'm very confused. I don't really know what just happened in this play.
I think it was a counter to a counter, because you had where it was literally only Kemi back, or it was literally only Stormers back on defense. Kemi was caught out of position on the other end. So it was a 2-on-1 that they couldn't take advantage of. And then at that point, the double commit on offense from Gambling Problems just opened the back door for Night Garden to be able to strike back in and get their second goal of this game. So just being able to watch and recognize that Night Garden can see this weakness and take advantage of that is a really fortunate sign for them. But it's something that Gambling Problems are going to have to deal with. If they don't do it now, they're going to have to do it eventually. Getting a beautiful dodge on the bump demo attempt there at midfield, and then just be able to take the ball and take it the other way. Missed touch. Great control and great awareness from Kieran.
Really good play from Kieran all around, but again, it just feels like another one of these things where the over-aggression now it's part of why I'm very nervous for Night Garden. Even when they do have a good lead, it feels like they kind of play to their opponents, if that makes sense. Once they see aggression out of Gambling Problems, they start to get aggressive. Once they see some passiveness out of Gambling Problems, they start to play passively, and unfortunately, they need to start dictating the pace of play for themselves here. They just don't look like they're confident enough to take this game very heavily. At a certain point, they need to start trying to play their play style, not trying to replicate whatever Gambling Problems is doing, because as it stands right now, Night Garden are leaving themselves exposed in a lot of places because they're trying to match that pace of play, and while it's worked out for this 2-1 to start off the game, there are 3 minutes left here, plenty of time for either one of these teams to try and change the momentum and take it in their favor. If Night Garden can score here, though, this would be huge. A 2-goal lead for them. Kemi can't get past the 50-50. Oh, no. And Storm is bumped out of the way in the corner here. That should be the end of the offense. Wait a minute. Is no one back here? It's a standard flick off the backboard. Someone there. No, Kemi gets late. But again, Gambling Problems giving ample time and space to their opponents and also giving them a free goal here. What is going on with Gambling Problems on the back half of their field?
Just a whole mess of whatever happened in this defensive zone, because there were so many chances here where they could have just gotten a better clear, a more efficient clear, a better defensive play to be able to translate to the other side. Instead, they just kept with little soft touches and small hits that kept it in play for Night Garden to be able to get opportunity after opportunity and give them an insurance goal here coming up on the halfway point. But still, I think because of the way we've seen both of these teams play, not only in this game, but in this series, you can't necessarily rely on the safety of any amount of a lead. We've seen 4-goal leads disappear in the blink of an eye. So even with the 2-goal insurance, you can't say that's a comfortable position.
That would have been a really comfortable position. Gambling Problems, had they gotten past that final defender. Pretty great bump there from Kiernan, but unfortunately, it's not going to be enough. Defense on the other end, though, starting to step up a little bit. Kiernan with a good save. Now the double commit on offense. I feel like there's also a little bit of confusion going on right now when it comes to Gambling Problems overall. Yes, they are trying to pull off some of these team plays, but these team plays don't really feel like team plays as much as they're sort of backup for if something goes wrong, if that makes sense. They're trying to double commit on balls in the air because they don't want to have their first player get completely blocked and then not have a follow-up, but realistically, I'd prefer some passing plays. I'd like them to start using this midfield a little bit more efficiently rather than just going for air dribble after air dribble here. Gambling Problems at this point are starting to look a little bit too generic. Night Garden are very prepared for most of the things that they're throwing at them, and unless they switch this up pretty quickly, I don't see them finding a lot of success in their offense.
Yeah, very easy just to kind of read what they're attempting to do, what they want to do, and this is, I think, slowing the gameplay down benefits Night Guard more than it does Gambling Problems, because then you get that little breakdown on the defensive side where they really can't do anything to contest back, and you see this long of time in a scoring drought for both sides, which, as long as Night Guard's got the lead, is going to benefit them every single time in these long drawn-out droughts, because Gambling Problems, again, are telegraphing what they want to do, and there's just nothing that they can do to answer back. Instead, you find us under a minute to play. They haven't scored, haven't been in position, keep getting bumped off, and they keep getting bumped off on defense as well. Kimmy going to just push the defense out and take that goal. A Timo and a bump and the goal. Kimmy's doing it all.
Oh my word, that is absolutely insane. I'm not an advocate for bullying there, but my oh my, was that a beautiful play with a lot of bullying involved there. Just absolutely taking out the entire defense there in Night Garden. I think at this point they've secured themselves game number 3 here, unless they, again, absolutely throw away this lead and pretty much just give kickoff goal after kickoff goal. I don't see Gambling Problems getting back into this one. It just feels too telegraphed, like you said. Night Garden are starting to find their success here. They're starting to do everything we were hoping for from game number 1. They are dictating the pace of play. They are not playing as aggressively on defense and letting Gambling Problems just kind of play into their hands at this point. And Gambling Problems don't seem to have any sort of changes, and they continue to do exactly that. They are recognizing that Night Garden are trying to play passively, but rather than countering it and sort of waiting for that passive play on their side, they're just staying as aggressive as ever, and it's really not working out for them. Another failed attempt on goal. This might actually lead to a final goal for Night Garden. Flick up high. Stealth is there. A block just barely, but regardless, Night Garden finally going to find their first win. Can they get a goal to put it on top? No such luck. Just barely off target. Night Garden indeed will keep themselves alive. They need to reverse sweep, though, Caribou. This is not going to be an easy battle for them.
Not at all, but the way that we saw them play between game 1 and game 2, they were right there on the precipice of taking either one of those, and I think that the confidence boost of them finally getting a win, and not just a single goal win, so very interesting that we see them in a position to now try to mount this comeback, to try to get this reverse sweep, and this is now, in this matchup here, the last team that is going to be going into the next round, as the other 3 teams have all advanced, and the most important and the most interesting one is looking at Amberguesa, who will be moving on over Top Cougars. Take a look at the bracket overall to see those 3 teams that have moved on. Amberguesa moving on with a 3-2 victory over Top Cougars, reminiscent exactly the same scoreline in qualifier number 1, another 3-2 series, and they're moving on.
Yeah, they're moving on, and again, it still feels like whichever one of the 2 teams had won that matchup was going to have the most momentum going into this one. Amberguesa now going to have to play against DB here, which, again, I feel like is another matchup where Amberguesa are going to take this one. When they do so in such narrow fashion against a team that has won multiple of these Atlanta Opens, there's going to be a ton of momentum in their favor. Amberguesa going to take that victory, DB going to take the other one, and Xerox going to move on as well. All they're waiting for is the winner out of this matchup, and to be honest, I don't think we're going to see it in this game number 4. We're underway here in game number 4. It's a chance for Stealth and Kiernan to finish out the series and move on, but considering the way the momentum has flowed here, I'm thinking we might just be heading for game number 5.
Would not be surprised at all if we see another game coming up after this one, but watching to start what the offense can do from Gambling Problems if they can get back online, because only a single goal to show in their last game is not very representative of what this offense can do. So that is where they have to look to make the changes here, try to find a little more passing plays, as you mentioned in the last one, open up the midfield play a little better, try to, again, create holes in the defense that we saw them do countless times in those first couple of games. That's why they scored so many goals. But on the other side, Night Garden, they just got to keep doing what they did in the last game. They found their recipe for success. They found the formula. They just got to be able to beat Gambling Problems out and not let their offense engage.
They're going to try their best here as they are finally starting to get an offense together. Gambling Problems for the first minute of play, by far the more aggressive team, and they continue to be so. Stealth off the backboard, no such luck in the Kiernan follow-up. He will go for 50-50 out at midfield. But again, this is sort of the risk that Night Garden are playing, or excuse me, Gambling Problems are playing right now. Night Garden are patient enough. They are not going to be scared of seeing a 50-50 out at midfield. If it doesn't go their way, that's fine. They've got someone to back them up here. They're just kind of waiting for that over-aggression out of Gambling Problems so they can capitalize. And with about 90 seconds gone here, they might just find that opportunity. Gemi going to find the first goal of game number 4, and Night Garden continue to just absolutely dominate on offense.
Good little reset there at midfield to go get that boost and then wait with just half a second of hesitation on that ball, waiting for the defender to challenge, because at that point you probably would expect that they're immediately going to, Kemi's going to go for the immediate touch. He's going to put enough juice under the ball to bump it up, and that would be a good challenge then. But that half-second hesitation really opened up that chance for Kemi to take that one and slide it in above the last defender to give them that first goal. And this is that slow, methodical gameplay that does suit Night Garden better off. I mean, they have a lot better of a chance. But now watching the pace of play increase here is mildly concerning, because Gambling Problems just does this so well, where they just fire shot after shot. And it is a hyper-aggressive style that can very easily backfire. But if they can get it in position and perform behind the defense where there's no one back at all, they get 2 misses. They get the goal-tying score right there. 1-1, 2:49 to play.
Part of this was the fact that Night Garden were also starting to get boost starved. At a certain point, Gambling Problems recognized that they were faster than their opponents and said, all right, cool, let's take every single boost pad on their half of the field there. That could be a winning strategy at this point for Gambling Problems. If they can just get Night Garden uncomfortable on defense, they can do wonders with that. Part of the reason they weren't finding success in their offense was because Night Garden started getting prepared for a lot of the defense that they had to perform there. We mentioned this earlier. When they got patient, they looked a lot better on defense, but one way to take away that patience is to take their boost here. Gambling Problems starting to figure out their offense. Can they get another one? No, just barely off target there. Kiernan will keep this one out from midfield here, but Gambling Problems finding a lot more success. Can they find a second goal? Just barely off target, but with 2 minutes remaining, it's starting to look like this second goal could be incredibly influential on the outcome.
Which is really surprising after the offensive showcase that we saw in the first 2 games from both sides. Said it's going to come down to a potential 5-goal max combined game. Like, that's really surprising to see what we can get out of this one. Stealth trying to take this. Kiernan with the follow, little chip shot is not going to go either, but the rotation coming around is going to be enough to keep them out of line. So instead, get a little bit of a coast-to-coast clearance where Kemi's going to give them the go-ahead goal. Minute 47 to go.
This just felt inevitable. At a certain point, when we talk about making passes to the center, it's usually not going to be from the corner to the center. That is way too easily readable at this type of level. You're going to have to try and find space in other ways, because once you get locked into the corner, you really don't have a lot of options on how to get it out of said corner. And Night Garden, again, just reading the offensive Gambling Problems. This is a huge problem right now for Kiernan and Stealth, is they just look way too predictable when it comes to their offense. I mean, once again, Stealth going for the flip reset. It's pretty standard to watch out for, and Kemi just has to wait out at midfield. Even when the 50-50 doesn't go their way, they are still prepared behind them because Storm is in the corner and waiting. Night Garden doing exactly what they're supposed to right now. They're playing patiently, not playing too aggressive, and just kind of waiting for the right opportunities to strike, which, to be honest, if Gambling Problems continue to play this recklessly, there's going to be a whole lot of opportunities for them to strike.
Stealth had a really good move there to open that one up to try to take it with the one-on-one, but instead just gets deflected off to the side. So now we under 60 seconds to play. They get a demo, so potential of an opportunity here. Respawn's going to come back through to put the defender right back in the box, though. So nothing will come out of that brief moment of advantage. 45 seconds at goal down, and yeah, Night Garden playing the right game. They're playing the way that they need to be able to walk away with this one. The amount of pressure they're putting on. Good save by Kemi, just camped out there in the back of the net, making sure that that will not go across. And there's got to be an answer. There's got to be something to give here from the offensive gambling problems because of, like you said, just how routine their approach has been in the last two. It took them a while to figure their offense out in game one. They figured out game two. And now it seems the defense has figured out gambling problems offense here for game three and game four. Night Garden's in a really good position going to a potential game five.
All they have to do is hold on for another couple seconds here, and I think they will. As Night Garden get back on offense, it's going to be difficult for gambling problems to find a breakout. Actually, they still will stealth, though. Just barely missing that touch. And Night Gardens will indeed take game number 4, forcing a game number 5. They were down 0-2 in the series at a certain point here, Caribou. It's crazy we're even getting a game number 5. The fact that they might do it in reverse sweep fashion. Yeah. If you are everybody from gambling problems right now, what is going through your mind? I would be panicking. I gotta hope that the players aren't panicking, though, because they need to come into this one with a level head.
They just got to be at a point where I think it's like, what happened, right? Game 1, game 2, we put up 6 goals, 7 goals, and now we're scoring 1 a game. Like, it seems like the minimum for gambling problems to win is score 2 goals. And they can't do that in the last 2 games. And if they can't score 2 goals, they're not going to win because that slow play benefits the other team more. And they're making it work better. On the other side, Night Garden, they got to be on cloud 9 right now because they should have won game 1. They had a 6-2 lead. They should have won game 2 where they came back and we thought the momentum that they had was going to be enough. Instead, it went to extra time, 11 seconds, and they put us to game 3. So they're in a position where this is not surprising at all to see this, but we probably just didn't expect it in this fashion to go to a game 5. But Night Garden, I think, are in control of the series and of the momentum right now.
100%. I mean, part of the reason that they are controlling the momentum, like you said, though, is they're also dictating the pace of play. And if they can do that here to start off game number 5, I think they absolutely are just going to take this one by storm here. An early goal for them would definitely give them the momentum. Similarly, though, if we see it on the other side, if gambling problems can find themselves an early goal, that might just be able to end this drought, this inefficiency of offense. But unfortunately, it looks like the problems are only going to continue, forced into their own half already and almost giving up a goal. A fantastic save, which does not get registered by Stealth, but I don't think it's going to be the end of the problems. Night Garden still prowling out at midfield.
There's still a lot of back and forth, but I think the longer it takes for goals to be scored, the worse off it is for gambling problems, as Kemi's going to take that one from just outside their own defensive box, and good dribbling, good ability to just shoot the gap on the 2 defenders and put it on the opposite post. Kieran could not get to that one at all, put it out of reach of the defense, give the go-ahead goal for Night Garden in game 5.
Garden doing just such a good job of making sure that they are efficient in these offenses. Again, this is a big issue we've had with gambling problem. All right, well, there's one way you can get your momentum back. Gambling problem, given this goal, I'm not exactly sure what the plan was for Kemi there, but I can guarantee you one thing, it was not that.
That's not conducive. Good assist from Kemi, but just wrong way. So, technically back, knotted up at zeros. All the that one gimmick, oopsie daisies. But that one, that shot, what a play from the ceiling down to Stealth. Being able to read that angle, and that is a tight window to fit that one in, and a tough angle, but does find it, gets the 2-1 lead now for gambling problems.
Uh-oh, I'm a little bit nervous now as well because Night Garden, we mentioned this earlier, when they're feeling confident, they look confident on the pitch and they play very efficiently. A goal like that or 2 goals like that sometimes can just completely drain the confidence of a team and change the momentum entirely. Gambling problems looking a lot better than they did in the last 2 games at all here. Night Garden need to slow them down. If they can even this one out pretty quickly, I still have confidence in the team, but if they don't get back to a 2-2 scoreline within the next minute or so, I'm going to be a little bit scared that the momentum might have flipped and the confidence from this Night Garden team may have drained a little bit too far for them to pull off this reverse sweep.
It's a really good defensive stand there off of the demo where there was not a lot of boost. It had 45 boosts total between the two of them. That was all on one player. So being able to get that clearance out, a really good redirect, good challenge to make sure that there wasn't a pass play opportunity there for Night Garden. And now they find themselves on the other end of the field here trying to get an answer back in this one, but finding their way around to being able to stop this attack from Night Garden and trying to take it the other way. And I think that the last minute or so from Gambling Problems has really put them in a better position. They hit the 2-goal threshold, right? So, like, theoretically, by logic of the series, Gambling Problems should be able to win this game. But I'm not comfortable if I'm only up a goal. If I'm up 2, though, maybe a little more comfortable. Stealth's going to slide that in just underneath the crossbar. Maybe kissed it a little bit. A simple little peck on the cheek as it went in. Nope, didn't even get that. Contact-free, 3-1 lead.
This is starting to look really nerve-wracking for everybody on Night Garden right now. They're in this little bit of no man's land. They don't know if they want to play passively. They don't know if they want to play aggressively. And the rotations are starting to fall apart because of it. And unfortunately, it seems like stuff is only going from bad to worse as they aren't finding the same efficiency on offense either. They had a limited amount of shots in game number 4. And all of a sudden, in game 5, they've taken multiple shots but have only found themselves 1 goal. This is not looking good for Night Garden. Like I said, it felt like that 1 goal was just the flip of the switch that Gambling Problems were looking for. They saw the draining confidence out of their opponents, and not only did it make it a lot easier for them to score on offense, but their defense has now found a boost of confidence as well. Great saves on the side of Gambling Problem, and I think they're going to get a goal because of it. Just delaying out the clock. Stealth trying to take as long as possible to put that one in, but it'll go in nonetheless, and a 3-goal lead to Gambling Problems might spell trouble for Night Garden.
Keyword might, because we've seen this before, almost at the exact same time frame where there was a 4-1 lead for Gambling Problems, and Night Garden came storming back in game 2 to send it into overtime at a 5-5 scoreline. So, yes, it looks good for Gambling Problems, but there is the asterisk because we've seen it before. So, for the time being, Gambling Problems, I think, is feeling a lot better about this play and how they're doing right now, but I think Night Garden are at a point now where they're potentially psyching themselves out. That's a great little pitch up off the wall. Kiernan's going to come in from midfield already in the air and slide that one in. A 5-1 lead now for Gambling Problems. That one might be the dagger. Maybe.
Yeah, I'm starting to recognize that this whole thing of where we thought that the momentum might have flipped too far from Night Garden, not only is it something that, oh boy, the players are recognizing, but just overall, I think this is something that's starting to really affect the pace of play in general here. Night Garden just look so nervous when it comes to, oh no, all of their play, whether it's the rotations, whether it's the approaches out at midfield, whether it is them trying to get an offense together. The confidence is completely drained here, and with 90 seconds left in this game, I know we don't want to say that this is impossible for Gambling Problems to throw away, but unless we see a quick little succession of different kickoff goals that gives confidence back to Night Garden, I don't see them pulling off this comeback.
Yeah, 4-1, maybe 5-1, not great. 6-1, yeah, well, 6-2 now. It's still not great. It's a lot in a minute 24. There is a world that it can happen, but just the way that Kiernan and Stealth will literally just have to stop playing defense, right? Which, again, potentially, maybe. Because we've seen some defensive miscues and some real concerning play on the defensive front from Gambling Problems, but it's just so far now with the time not on your side from Kemi and Stealth's side. Like, it's just, from Storm's side, it's just not looking great, especially when you get another one added onto a 7-2 line now. It's just a matter of run the clock down. That's all the Gambling Problems have to do. They're in control. They're in position to move on into the next round. You just got to make sure that they don't completely fall apart. 90%, sure. 100%, no.
Yeah, 90% they can. I'm going to be honest here. When they're getting offense like that, though, I find it difficult to believe that they're going to fall apart there. Again, confidence, another huge part of Rocket League just in general, and it feels like the confidence right now for Gambling Problems has finally hit that peak. It took them so long to find that, but not only are they doing great on defense here, but they're... okay, well, never mind. All right. I was going to say their defense is starting to come together and their offense is flowing. Apparently, they're still running into some issues in defense. So, while they might just get past Night Garden here in Game 5 and move on to the semis, it doesn't necessarily seem like Gambling Problems have ironed out all of their issues quite yet.
It's a decent attempt on the bump from Stealth just to try to get him off the ball, not let Kimi get that shot, but just too little too late on that one. So we're at about 15% of the breakdown now, but 40 seconds to go. I think it's okay. Good save from Stealth just to make sure that they don't get another one back. Even still, even at 7-4 with 35 seconds, I think is still too far down. There's not a lot that can be said about this. So under 30 to play, Gambling Problems in control of the ball and of the game, in control of their own destiny as well to move on to the next round. That ball will not go in, but that's okay because, again, just play the clock at this point. Gambling Problems will be moving on, though. They will be the fourth and final team to join the rest of them. As we took a look at the bracket earlier, we already know who has moved on in this one, but what a show that these two teams put on. And this is what we said talking about at the beginning of the show. All of these teams matching up against each other, very well paced against the competition. Great series between them at 3-2 over to Gambling Problems, and you can't ask for anything more to open up today's finals.
Not at all. This is exactly what we were hoping for between the two teams. We were hoping for a really good battle, and after game number 2, it really didn't seem like we were going to get that battle, but thankfully, game 3, all of a sudden, everything turned around, and it really was a great back and forth. No longer was it looking like this one-sided affair. I'm very happy with the way that series turned out. I know that for everybody on Night Garden, they probably want a little bit of a redo there. They'd love another run back at that game number 5, but hey, we got a battle nonetheless. Both teams did a great job of representing themselves, and to be honest, like you said, it's just kind of hard here. Every single team today is extremely capable, so even being able to get out of round number 1 was going to be a task and a half, and for Night Garden, it was just a little bit too much of one.
But instead, they do get out of round number 1. So take a look at the bracket to see where we are with our 4 teams that have advanced. They will face off against Xerox. We never came to an agreement on how to say that name, but on the other side, Ambergresa and Discombobulated Banana are going to be facing off as well. Ambergesa obviously coming out against an incredibly difficult matchup against Top Cougars. Honestly, 2 teams that we would expected to see facing off in the grand finals of today's event. Instead, they get drawn with the round 1. And a 3-2 for Ambergesa, I think, bodes very well for them. And it'll be interesting to see if they can continue their success in that second round. But that bottom matchup as well going to be very interesting because I think, again, those 2 teams are just so evenly matched that flip a coin, expect another 3-2.
Yeah, that's pretty much the entire way that it goes here today, is that you could pick any one of these teams and you would have great odds. It would make a lot of sense for anyone that you choose, but unfortunately there can only be one winner, and it's a winner we're going to find out when we get back from a little bit of a break and get everything set up for our next matchup. But when we return, we will have the semifinals here at the Atlanta Open. $500 on the line. You guys are not going to want to miss it. Stay tuned. We will be right back.
ground shake.
Hello, everyone, and welcome back here to the Atlanta Community Open Finals. After 3 qualifiers, we have got ourselves here to this position, now facing up against the semifinals. So we're going to welcome all of our viewers back, not only on the Skillshot channel, but also on the Xbox channel. We've gone through our first series already, a banger of a 3-2. Almost had that reverse sweep, but could not eventually clutch up. Gambling problems. We'll move on to that one. My name is Trevor Caribou. I can't even say my own name right. Good Lord. It is one of those days. Caribou. Hello, the animal. On the other side, I have another animal. The bass from the past. Or it's a bass. But bass in the past sounds better, but he could also be a guitar. Are you a guitar?
No, I don't know about that one, my friend. I think that the animal duo here is going to have to represent the kingdom well, and I'm hoping that we continue to do so, as so far here today, it has been absolutely phenomenal. And we've got another great matchup coming for you guys here in Hamburguesa versus DB here. It has been a rough road for each of these teams to get here. Hamburguesa getting here in a 3-2 victory over Top Cougars, one of the teams that has previously won the Atlanta Opens. Discombobulated Banana, or DB as we've been calling them, taking a win over LGBT. And then Gambling Problems taking a win over Night Gardens, as Xerox taking a win over Team Copyright Name. Every single one of these teams is very capable of taking this entire one, but you and I have been placing bets all day. It feels like if Hamburguesa can make it out of the semifinals, they might just take this entire thing.
Yeah, certainly have put themselves in position to be very confident moving forward, looking at the rest of the field of competition. And I think that is good and bad for them, because they got to be confident that they can win these games and expect that they can, because as you mentioned, confidence a huge unseen factor in these games. But on the other side, looking at where DB can come through and come into this one, coming in as the underdog, this is their opportunity to strike and really catch Hamburguesa off guard, who after a 3-2 victory over Top Cougars, as you said, a team with an esteemed storyline, a ton of success that they have seen here in all of the Skillshot Community Opens across the months. Hamburguesa might be just getting a little complacent and kick it into neutral, where they can just try to coast through this next series and give DB this opportunity to take a real chance to take out the top dog.
Yeah, I mean, and again, they come in as the top dog here, but the truth of the matter is every single one of these teams has qualified through some very difficult matchups to get here. It's not going to be an easy run no matter what here for Hamburguesa. They may have possibly the strongest team here in Jalading and Louis P. Louis P, by the way, a player who has played for, I believe, Team Queso previous to this one. I'll have to go back and check, but that's an RLCS caliber team, so it's not going to be an easy battle no matter what, but at the end of the day, if you can sneak up, if you can just play out the gates really, really well, sometimes it's enough to catch a team off guard, and all of a sudden they can never really recover. We thought that was going to be the case in the last matchup we saw between Night Garden and Gambling Problems, but Gambling Problems were able to recover a little bit due to some momentum change in Game 5. I don't feel like we're going to be able to see that here. If DB do not come out the gates firing, I feel like Hamburguesa might just take this in 3.
I have to agree with you. I think if we don't see DB really get something in Game 1, Game 2, if they don't take one of those, then there's little to no chance they take game 3, I think, because at that point you have the mental kicking in, and Burguesa just at the point, yeah, they can. Or maybe it is going to be just a point where Burguesa gets too comfortable and they lose game 3. But we'll find out going in to start this one out. Burguesa versus Discombobulated Banana in our first semifinal matchup, top half of this bracket. Of course, $500 prize pool on the line and a decent chunk of change difference between first and second place. So I'm sure both of these teams would much rather take that first place prizing, but already we see Ding and Luis taking a little more aggressive stance and putting the pressure on here for the Discombobulated Banana defense.
My word, they're putting on a lot of pressure already. And Jaladin going to find the first goal of this game. And Burguesa already on the board here. I do want to give a little bit of a shout out to Louis P for one other thing before we get into this one. I did forget, he actually just signed to a new team, so congrats on joining Fadeaway here. Maybe that'll just carry them to a victory here today, Caribou. You know, sometimes when you get a new signing and you feel really confident, it can just take your entire team right to the top.
Yeah, just feeling that little extra bit of pride in yourself, knowing that you've done something that's pretty cool that a lot of people would love to be able to strive to do, to get a contract signing to play a game. I mean, I could never imagine because I'm terrible at everything, but goals, am I right? That's...
Oh, my word. Well, hey, listen, we're doing a great job so far here today at making sure to keep up the action every time we hit the pitch here, but Burguesa doing a great job of assisting us as they are onslaughting shot after shot after shot against DB here, but is DB going to find a breakaway goal? Indeed they are! Jalading, no, it's off target! Barely off target. A huge chance for DB to get themselves on the board, and I'm going to be honest, that felt kind of necessary considering how much pressure Burguesa has been putting on. They needed an equalizer if they wanted to find some confidence here in game number 1.
Yeah, Lanky had a really good setup too. I mean, just waited half a second longer to be able to get a percentage of advantage to take it the other end, and at that point, an open net should have gotten that goal. Instead, we find the pressure, immediately flip right back to the other side. Louis gets the demo in front, just let Jaladin come in and get the goal score right there. So 90 seconds in, a 2-goal lead now for Burguesa, and the amount of offensive presence we are seeing from the Burguesa side, make it 3 now off the kickoff. This is concerning from the DB side, where you have to find something to get your defense out of their defensive stance.
This is just looking a little bit rough so far here for DB, but part of the issue that we're seeing is that, like we said, it felt like DB needed to come out the gates firing and give themselves some momentum. Otherwise, they would just kind of let Burguesa continue with the momentum of their last series here, and unfortunately, DB have not done that. They gave up 3 goals within a 2-minute period. We're not even halfway through game 1, and Burguesa look just as good as ever. Louis P trying to go for a little bit of a flip reset goal from a cross-court air dribble. It's, yeah, this is starting to look like a lack of confidence for DB is going to come back to bite them pretty heavily here with 2 minutes gone and their one opportunity being such a huge one at that. It feels as if they need a massive change of momentum if they want a shot at even staying in this one for game number 1.
Yeah, and even on an opportunity of 1-2, Jalading missed the pass play, but they still end up with possession, and Louis P just takes this one. Pretty slow roller coming off that midfield line, but still is able to get up and over the defense to get behind them and get another goal scored. So 4 up, 2:46 to play, and I think this is a point now Burguesa is going to be able to kick it into cruise control, play the clock, because they recognize now that they have just every facet of control in this game. There is nothing that they are not controlling, save that lone breakaway that should have been a goal given. Burguesa is doing everything right.
Yeah, they're just playing this one correctly, and that's kind of the difficulty here for DB here, is that they're playing this one so correctly that DB don't really have a lot of opportunities to get back into this game. For a lot of teams, one way to get back into a game is just to wait for a big mistake out of your opponents and then capitalize upon it to make them second guess everything that they do for the rest of the game, and that's just not happening here. Burguesa are not giving those opportunities to DB for them to try and find confidence and get themselves back into this one. I mean, speaking of which, Jalading just with as much time and space space as possible. This is another issue we're starting to see here. DB are not necessarily being given opportunities to get back into this game, but they're definitely being given opportunities to at least try and get some momentum in their favor here. This passiveness, this little bit of in-between where they're stuck in no man's land so often, it has left them very vulnerable. They need a goal before the end of this first game. I don't know if they can take the win here, Caribou, but if they can get at least one goal before the end of regulation, it should give them some confidence and give them an ability to stay in the series overall.
Yeah, and just a single goal makes a world of difference, really, because we've seen teams that go a game, 2 games completely shut out, and just how detrimental that is to the mental, and how hard it is to be able to kick that toxicity where you realize or get in your own head where you think that there's just no way we can't even score on this team. How the hell are we going to be able to beat them? Like, there's just no chance at all. But to be able to find something, and I think had they got that lone breakaway goal, they'd be doing so much better off right now, at least in terms of their confidence. You know, again, that's one of those unseen variables that you can't necessarily measure, but it is something that you can absolutely kind of see portrayed on the field. And it just looks like a team defeated right now is playing reactive. They're playing catch up. They're just trying to just scramble to get a touch on the ball anywhere, any way. Not really a plan when they do get contact with it, but they just got to try to find something to get it out. Instead, Ambergasa get another goal, put them up 5-0, 43 seconds to go. And this is going to be a very convincing one-sided game 1 victory for Ambergasa. Just got to find their answer for game number 2.
Yeah, there just needs to be an answer at this point for DB here. They need to figure out something in their favor. It just feels like they, like you said, are playing catch-up this entire time. It never felt like this game was in their favor, and as a result, they've been scrambling to try and do so. And oh my word, scrambling might be the best descriptor we can do for the defense here. This was just all over the place. Lanky not going to commit until it's a bit too late, and then the follow-up from Dark is just non-existent as they fake a challenge and then try to recover back in here. It's a lot of things combining on top of each other at this point, Caribou. It feels like Ambergasa are not only in control of this series, but DB are just losing their grip on feeling out this process and understanding what pace of play they want to operate with.
And I think that's a very important thing that they got to be able to figure out in game 2. It's to find an identity that they want to try to play off of in this series and just stick with it. You know, stick to your guns at that point. And that's, I think, better than just playing a reactive, chaotic gameplay style. I mean, they are playing the chaotic neutral right now where it's just, unfortunately, in position that they can't do anything to stop what Ambergasa is doing. And, of course, this is relatively expected from Ambergasa because of what we've seen, the success that they've had, you know, coming into qualifier number 1 and just confidently rolling the competition. They beat Top Cougars in that one in a 3-2 series. They beat Top Cougars again today in a 3-2 series. So Ambergasa playing at peak form is a team that even the best of the best teams we've seen here in the Skillshot Community Opens cannot top. So this is a very tall mountain for DB to climb, but you got to start somewhere.
Yeah, I mean, this is going to be, I'm not going to say impossible for them, but like you said, they just need to start somewhere, get some sort of momentum in their favor. The first step to victory is taking that first step, and as simple as that seems, it really is going to be a difficult task for DB here because they just don't seem to have a lot going in favor of them. The defense seems stronger on Ambergasa, the offense seems stronger in Ambergasa, and overall the rotations just look a little bit tighter. It feels like DB, once they do get into that panic state, they just don't know how to pull themselves out of it. We talk about this a lot, but that mental reset, that just deep breath and being able to get yourself back into a series, finding that confidence and believing that you can take the win, it's huge. And I think it is the first step that we need to see out of DB here. If we don't see them have a little bit of a mental reset in between game 1 and 2, I'm going to stick confident in what I said at the beginning of this series, that this would be a 3-0 in favor of Ambergasa.
Yeah, if there's not an answer here, I don't know if we're going to be able to see one, but we're going to get into game number 2 now after a convincing game 1 win. 5-0, 6-0 final scoreline for Ambergasa. They're already off the rip, starting again on the offensive side where we saw them virtually spend the entirety of the last game. And now here we are 10 seconds in. They get the first one. Jollading's going to play this off the backboard. A nice little pitch and catch to yourself and dunk that one in.
Yeah, unfortunately, again, I feel like this is a little bit of a couple different things. Yes, it's a little bit of the loss of confidence there for DB, but additionally, it's also the lack of rotations, like we had been saying. When you have a player going up like that, you have to make sure that one of your two players on defense is going to be able to go up and try and contest it, just not give free space to the other team. And when DB both don't really do that, and both of them try to play reactive on the line, all you're doing is giving time and space to Ambergesa. And here's what happens when you do so. Louis P with another cross-court air dribble to a flip reset, and at this point, this is clinical for him.
Yeah, it's just another day at the office, right? It's nothing special, nothing crazy. It's just Louis P doing the things you would expect Louis P to do. Really, anyone on this team could do, but seeing Louis P do it just, yeah, that's about right. That's on brand. That's fitting for that. But a 2-0 lead now, 30 seconds in. I mean, Ambergase is certainly not letting up from where they left off in the last one, and just not even getting the opportunity for DB to pick up any boost. I mean, they're picking up the midfield, and a thing we talked about in the first series that we spectated today in our opening round, boost starvation and just being able to outpace your opponents, not only to dictate the tempo of the game, but to outpace them just because they physically cannot keep up is a huge advantage that we see teams really take advantage of, and it gives you just such an inherent advantage in these games that Jalding is able to get back, and you see the defender can't because there's back boost there. It spawned, but they didn't go pick it up. So all they're going off of is the little boost pads at the mid and around the field. Not nearly enough for them to be able to get back on defense and stop the Ambergesa attack.
And again, that's sort of the big emphasis here, is the fact that Ambergesa is doing exactly that, though. You're saying that DB can't get back on defense, but Ambergesa apparently have all the boosts in the world. They very rarely look unprepared on defense here, and this is a big separating factor from them and the rest of the crowd in this tournament, if I'm being 100% honest here. As good as Gambling Problems are as a team, this was their biggest weakness. They had such a good offense, but when they had to scramble back on the defense, they really did scramble. They did not look prepared for counterattacks, and teams like DB probably would have given them a good run for their money. The difference is Ambergesa, doesn't matter if they're on defense, doesn't matter if they're on offense, doesn't matter where they are on the pitch, they can find success. And again, Louis P from midfield setting this one up and then going off the wall. This man is a living highlight reel at this point, Caribou.
Yeah, and expect to see a lot of these highlights when you come through into the next rendition of the Community Open. Just watching these two, and there's a reason that we see them in so many of our highlight reels, because when they play teams, they just find a way to make their own reels because of just the talent that they have. And it doesn't matter who they're playing against. It could be against Top Cougars, it could be against DB, it could be anybody, it could be against you and me. They'd still find a way to make a highlight reel out of anything and it from anywhere on the field. It's just impressive how talented these two are. Jalding's going to take this one. That's a little hesitation and then little boost there across to keep that ball high underneath the crossbar. And a 5-0 lead now, not even at the halfway point. Ambergesa, again, just cruising to their game two.
They're just cruising in general when it comes to this series at this point. Unfortunately for DB here, we were hoping they'd find a little bit of a spark of life and get some confidence in themselves, but they have lacked a lot of confidence, and it has left them vulnerable in a multitude of different places here. Finally, they're starting to look a little bit more organized on defense. Maybe not. A little bit of shaky in between there as they can't figure even a touch on the ball. Jolodang able to dribble from side to side here. Now in a 2v1, this is just going to be a scary situation that, no way, is Lanky going to find a goal from this? Indeed they will! Ooh. 2v1, but Discombobulated Banana will finally find themselves a goal here with 2 minutes remaining in game two.
They have now found the trailhead at the bottom of the mountain, and they're starting to work their way up. It starts with one, they get that one, so now they just got to do a lot more in this game to be able to get back into that one, but 4 goals down, they find their first one, and this is, as we talked about, it's not much. It's something, but it's not much to be able to get back, especially when you give up, like, any confidence that you just built up after scoring that goal is virtually shredded now after an immediate take back from Joloding. But you can't say you scored a goal, and that's a little bit, I guess.
I mean, it's like, it's some confidence. I guess that's sort of something to brag about, but at the same time, DB here, I think we're going for a little bit more ambitious of I'd say a win maybe is what they were looking for here. 2 minutes remaining. No way. There's no way they get the win after that one. That is insane. The Brazil from Louis P, and this is a disgusting second touch.
Yeah, Louis just a nice little side flip, and it's enough to flip it over the top. It's almost unreal how good some players are at this game, and watching Louis P is an honor. Being able to cast someone of that caliber is incredible. It blows my mind watching what some of these people can do.
This is going to be an interesting couple following rounds here for Ambergesa at this point. They not only have seemingly locked this matchup up, but it just feels like they have enough confidence to be able to beat anyone in this tournament at this point. We knew they were going to be a front runner. They were a front runner for a reason, but after seeing a performance like this, you have to imagine the confidence is overflowing amongst these two players here. DB kind of just have to sit back and watch as they have a highlight reel onslaughted against them here, and Chalading trying to do exactly that. Can't quite get it, but to be honest here, even if DB do score this goal, which, okay, they are going to. I thought they might have bumped each other off and not been able to score it, but with a minute remaining here, all that's really going to happen is I think Ambergesa are going to play a little bit more recklessly to try and get some highlights, and DB maybe find some confidence to keep the series alive, but it's been very difficult for them to start off on the right foot in game, so unless they come out the gates firing in Game 3, I don't see the series continuing past the next game.
Yeah, it's not going to be easy by any means for them to take an advantage, and I think if they do, they have to do it early. They can't let Ambergesa do what they've done in Game 1 and Game 2, where in the first 10-15 seconds, they get a goal, and then they just start the onslaught there of the offensive pressure and the presence that they have, just pinning DB back on the defensive side. Lanky going to come through to get that save. It started to come across. I don't think it would have had enough to go across unless there was a follow-up coming from midfield, but still enough to keep it out for the time being. Jalding trying to take it from end to end here, played into the corner. And the 7-2 scoreline, I mean, Ambergesa going to take this one outright, but winning the game number 3, DB's got to find a way to slow this Ambergesa offense down, and that is a very tall order looking at the likes of these two.
Yeah, I don't think it's going to happen. As much as I'd love to try and, play this one up and be a little bit friendly with it, I just see Ambergesa as too strong of an opponent for DB to try and get past here. As the clock expires, maybe Ambergesa can get one more for the road. No such luck, but they did not need it. 7-2 is already a dominant victory enough here. Ambergesa 2-0 here on the day when it comes to this. It really does feel like their first matchup was going to be their most difficult here in Caribou. I mean, we've given as much advice as we can to their opponents here, but it just kind of feels like at this point, the outcome is inevitable. Ambergesa just need to get through one more game, and they will move on to the grand finals here. And for DB, this is not necessarily a poor performance. It is just one of these things where they were outclassed by their opponents, and it is very difficult for them to find any sort of momentum to try and flip the script.
Yeah, it's going to be really it take everything in the world for them to be able to flip this script because of just how convincing Ambergesa is playing right now, just how well they are playing. It should be something, as we talked about, and as we said, Game 1, Game 2, if Ambergesa take both of those, there is even smaller of a percentile chance that DB is going to be able to take Game 3. And looking at a 3-0 sweep here for Ambergesa leaves them in perfect position where they can move forward and take this third game to move in a sweep. And then they get to watch our next semifinal matchup and just kind of kick back and study their opponents and realize that they are, as we said, coming out of round 1 over a victory over Top Cougars, in complete control of their own destiny to walk away with that first place prizing here today.
Yeah, I mean, again, when you're able to get past Top Cougars in the first round, it really does say a lot about you as a team. Top Cougars taking a multitude of these Atlanta Opens over the last couple of months here. One of the most winning teams we've ever seen, and it's just one of these things where once you get out of that first matchup, everything else is going to feel like a breeze to you. And unfortunately for DB, they are one of those teams that's just... it's not going to feel the same as going against Top Cougars here, and that's kind of what we're seeing here is that Ambergesa came into this one with a mindset of sort of, we're going to hit the gates running, or we're going to hit the ground running, we're going to go out the gates firing for everything that we do, and DB just weren't really as prepared for that. Ambergesa had a very tough matchup to start off with, and that momentum has carried them throughout the day. The question is whether or not they're going to still have that momentum going into the finals here, and yes, I do say going into the finals because DB do feel, again, unless we see an absolute flip of the script here, which I'd love to see in game number 3 here, I just think that Ambergesa is going to take this one in the sweep.
Yeah, and at this point, it is all up to them to be in the chance that they want to take this sweep. If not, they can kick back and relax and, give DP a game. But at this point, I think they're just wasting their own time because we know that they can. Lanky's going to take this one from end to end, though. And this is the difference we said. If DP wants to win a game, they got to take it early, and they don't let Ambergasa score first. DP's done that, so that's one box checked. Now they just got to make sure that they have more points than the other team when the clock hits 0, because that's the best way to win a game.
The question is whether or not they can hold on to this for that long, as Louis P already, almost trying to get that equalizer here. Ambergasa did not get the first goal. This is going to be a huge opportunity for DB, like you said, but the question is whether or not they can hold on to it. The over-aggression here is going to leave them in a vulnerable position, and then they stop the aggression. Confusing play here coming out of DB, but even more confusing out of Ambergasa as they are just kind of letting their opponents play in their half. Maybe they're trying not to score too many goals too early to just try and keep the time down on this game, but either way, Ambergasa playing a little bit passively here, and I gotta wonder, they're just freestyling. Okay, Louis P coming off the backboard. Now this is starting to make a little bit more sense.
Yeah, they're just trying to impress us a little bit more, and because I think they know that at any point they can flip a switch and just put 4 goals up real quick. But what's the fun in that? Let's play with the food a little bit, I guess, is kind of seemingly what they're doing at this point. Jalding's going to take that one off the wall, a solo play, and get that across the line to tie the game up. Minute 20 gone by, they finally get their first one, but it's not for lack of trying. It's just a sense of, exactly like you said, they're going for a few more clips on the highlight reel.
Yeah, just a little bit. Playing a little bit more carelessly here, and to be honest, I'd kind of prefer this over what they were doing before. It was clear after a certain point that DB were going to struggle to stay in this series, and if they just run the goals up against them, all you're really doing is draining the confidence of your opponent and making them feel not as proud, I would say, of the performance they put on during the day. But again, DB should not be unhappy with the performance they put on here today. Against a team like Ambergasa, it is very difficult to take a win against them, let alone get a couple of goals here. And, well, they will get a goal off this one. I'm going to be honest. I don't know if it was as much DB getting the goal, though, as much as it's Ambergasa giving them one.
Yeah, like you just going for the little chip, and at that point, Louis P essentially just convinced that one to go in off the crossbar, tried to bump it high, but instead gave a little extra oomph on the backhand to give DP the lead once more. 20 seconds after the goal scored. So now we'll see if we're going to find an answer real quick. Solid ding, try to play it off to Louis off the wall, but instead will get deflected to the side. They'll keep it on this half of the field. For the time being, good attempt there. Louis P just over the top of the defense. And I couldn't tell from the angle, but looked like a nice little flick off the hood. Oh, yeah.
Musty flick. Oh my word, eh? That's a pretty much perfect example. If any of you at home were wondering how to get a musty flick done, well, there's a good one off the wall with immense power here. And again, Ambergasa just kind of going for these highlight reel plays, knows they can flex their mechanics a little bit more here. And Louis P trying to do exactly that. Couldn't quite read the drop down off the backboard here, but Jaladin gets set up on the back end. This should be a beautiful passing play. No! Louis P decides to not go for that one. A little bit too standard for his liking, and just underneath 3 minutes remaining, it does kind of feel like Ambergasa are just waiting for that moment to turn this one on its head and just absolutely dominate. Oh, my word. Had they actually given up a goal like that, though, DB might have found themselves some confidence. No such luck, though. We remain at 2-2 here and just underneath half the game remaining. The question is whether or not DB can take advantage of this lackluster defense out of Ambergasa, or if Ambergasa are just kind of waiting for that perfect moment to bounce.
I feel like it's exactly that. They're just waiting to strike. I mean, even with the chance from the pass from Jalading over to Louis P just outright passes that one up and says, no, that's way too simple. I could get a redirect on that, but that's too boring for my likes here. On the other side, we've seen DB have chances to strike back and had some good-looking possessions to go the other way, but instead, I'm going to watch a nice little setup here from the likes of Ambergasa to get this. Louis P called out a nice little 1-through-1 there. Get goal, and that's a goal up.
And now with just about 2 minutes remaining, I feel like this might be the time that we start to see the real Amber Gesa here. I feel like they're going to just kind of, start to show off that offensive prowess that we know and love from the team. They don't want to even give the opportunity to DB here at this point. If they give up a game against DB, not only is that going to ruin the momentum they had before, but it's also going to kind of show them as a little bit vulnerable. The rest of the bracket will recognize that a team has taken a win against them. And oh my word, first, they're going to have to stop this team from doing that. That is unreal. What is this pass and what is this shot?
That outright from Louis P is such a difficult angle, and that's an attempt that is not one you'll see a lot of players attempt to make. I mean, just it's such a tough angle, and then you just see Jaldin come up with the follow. That's a beautiful set there from both of them, and the finish. Just Amber Gesa just showcasing their talents and the skills that they have, and why they would be a team favored to win this bracket here today, win this Atlantic Community Open Finals, just because of they can do things like that, and not many teams here in any of this. As we said, 80 to 90 teams registered for the Community Opens, the qualifiers. These are the top 10%. I'd wager maybe 3 teams in the top 8 could pull off something like that.
Yeah, and this is just kind of one of these things where Amber Gesa, we knew that this result was going to come. We're not surprised. It was more just the fact that it did start to get a little bit close here in game number 3, but eventually they started turning on the Jets, and they're making plays like this. Louis P trying to link up on the other end there, but no such luck. Joloding just a little bit off target, but it's not even going to be the end of the offense here. Amber Gesa just continuing to prowl out at midfield here, make it such a difficult game for DB to even feel like they can get into. And again, Amber Gesa, I feel like this is going to be their strategy all day. Just make it difficult for teams to find an offense, and when they do get their own, they are absolutely lethal. Louis P off the backboard. Where is Jala Ding? Nowhere. They're actually not even going to approach. I think at this point, Amber Gesa know they've got the game. They're just going to try and keep this one away from their opponents, and they'll take one last shot for the road. But no such luck in getting that extra goal, but there is some luck in taking the series. Amber Gesa take this series 3-0 and advance themselves as the first team to the finals.
Yeah, in impressive fashion that we see a team that has looked good every time we see them play. I mean, from the qualifiers, from the last time they came around, we saw Jala Ding and Louis P win out one of the Community Opens. And I think that was, what month are we in? August? That was like May or June that they walked away with the finals title, and an impressive showing then where they beat out like a team of Smokes and Toxic there as well, just like they did here today. So this is a team that when they do show up, they show up to win, and it's not surprising at all to see them move on into the grand finals here today, to see them try to put their name in the hat for that first place prizing. And watching the way that they did that way they won in that series, I think that there's still plenty of conversation about how this team is going to be a favored team to win outright, but they also still have to beat one more team.
Yeah, indeed they do. And that's going to be the winner of this next matchup. It is Gambling Problems versus Xerox here. And again, two very capable teams that at the end of the day, it's really going to be telling to see who takes momentum in this one. I feel like unless we see one of these teams really pull out a very confident win, I'm still putting my money on Amber Gesa here. Gambling Problems, again, their biggest issue we've seen here today has been their defense. And while they have as efficient of an offense as the teams we just played, I don't necessarily think their defense is as up to par here. Amber Gesa are just a little bit stronger on the back end, and it makes me feel like unless Xerox does something that I'm unsure of, because I've seen them play a couple of times, I think Gambling Problems take the series, but I still don't know if they're going to be able to pull it out once they get to the grand finals.
Yeah, and this is going to be an interesting matchup as well between these two, because both of them came out of qualifier number 2, where Xerox got second place, where they would lose to Gambling Problems in that final. So this is, again, another one of those rematch situations where you try to get back what you lost there in that qualifier to get here. I mean, you got here still, but now you already know that there's a precedent set in this series. So naturally from that, you would give an edge to Gambling Problems, assuming that they can play at their ceiling and they still play the same way they did in that second qualifier a couple of weeks ago. But as the bottom half of this bracket, the expectation set, all 4 of those teams were very evenly matched going into this one. And I think this matchup just continues to showcase that it's virtually a 50-50. I think it could go either way. It just depends on who's going to show up and play a little bit better.
Yeah, I think that's the big thing here today, is that we need to see Gambling Problems in their peak form if they want to take this one, and similarly, we need to see Xerox in their peak form if they want to take this one. It's really the big question we had the first time we saw Gambling Problems here on stream today, was whether or not they were going to ever find that cohesion necessary. I still don't feel like they did after game number 5. They might have found some cohesion. They might have found a better rhythm than before, but it doesn't seem to have clicked quite yet. They need to make sure that they are playing with a good rotation, because while they got away with it in game number 1, or excuse me, series number 1 of the day for Gambling Problems, the further they get into this tournament, I feel like those mistakes are going to get capitalized more and more, and it's just not something they can afford to do here now that they're in the semifinals.
Yeah, and that is the thing, a storyline, a narrative that we have driven in every community open, regardless of qualifiers, finals, whatever position you're in. Early on, you can afford to make those mistakes early on in the bracket. But as we start to get more and more higher level of competition to go through, and you get closer to the finals of your respective bracket, you can't make as many mistakes because the teams will recognize that, they will capitalize on it, and they will punish you every single time. And there is a difference to draw the line between teams that recognize these mistakes to punish them versus teams that create their own opportunities and force the other teams to make mistakes. And I think the teams, and that kind of goes hand in hand with dictating the tempo and the pacing of the game, the teams that force their opponents out of their comfort window, force them to make mistakes, and then capitalize on those are the teams that we see often in the finals, often winning their series and having storied success rates, because they are just covering their bases across the board. And if there's a team that can do that, and we've seen Ambergasa do that, but if there's a team here in this matchup that can do just that, to dictate the pacing, to be able to get them into a position where they can capitalize on the opponent's mistakes that they're creating, then we're good to go. That team's going to take the dub.
Yeah, I think most of the time that's usually how it goes in Rocket League here. It's just sort of playing a little bit safer if a play style is going to work out in the long run. You may even take a couple of losses starting off, but eventually mistakes are made. No team is perfect in Rocket League, and being able to capitalize upon that is one of the most useful things in general, just whether it's ranked, whether it's competition like this, anything when it comes to Rocket League, being able to recognize that there has to be a second option. Even in 1v1s, for a team like Gambling Problems, who are made of 2 1v1 players, they do need to recognize that if they're going to go for a full-out offense, they need to have a recovery plan, because yes, obviously they can rely on their teammate, but at a certain point, if both players are kind of playing that aggressive play style, you need to also be prepared in case it goes the other way. And for Gambling Problems, that's kind of the biggest issue we've seen so far here, is that they really do love sending their entire offense, both players, into it, and then not really having much of a backup plan. So if Xerox can take advantage of that, I agree with you. I think they're going to end up taking this series and giving themselves a lot of momentum going into that grand final. But it's one of these things where I don't really know what to expect from Xerox. We've seen Gambling Problems today. We have a little bit of an idea of how they're going to play, but Xerox, it's a little bit of up in the air here. Obviously, they're a good team, but can they match up against Gambling Problems this time and find the success they did not find in that original qualifier?
Yeah, and that is a very important question, is can they change the history? I mean, obviously, we have the precedents being set that we know Gambling Problems can beat this team because they've done it already. And of course, Xerox teams comprising of Elite, Ghost, and Mizuki. So a couple of players that we've seen that have done very well together. They've made their own highlight reels. I think they littered the top 10 segment going into the following week of their qualifier. So we know that they're capable of playing very well and what they can do, but it's the question of, can they do it consistently? Because again, like you said, we haven't seen them play today. So are they going to be able to try to find that mojo here in this series? And on the other side, is Gambling Problems going to be able to do what they did in their first series? Because yes, game 1 started out atrociously. It was miserable for Gambling Problems, but they were able to find their offense in the last 2 minutes of game 1 for the entire duration of game 2. They just got to hit that 2-goal threshold. That's where they set the bar. We score 2 goals, we're going to win the game. If they don't score 2 goals, it doesn't look good for Gambling Problems.
Yeah, I mean, at this point, it's one of these things where Gambling Problems know what they need to do to take the victory here. I'm hoping that they're listening to us, or they have a coach in the background that's giving them the tips and tricks here. But it's all about how they perform in that first game. If they perform as well as we know they can on offense and also have a good defense, I think they'll be able to take this one. But we're going to have to find out. We're going to take a quick little break here, make sure that we've got everything set up for our next series. But when we return, it is semifinal number 2, Gambling Problems versus Xerox here in the Atlanta Open Finals, powered by Microsoft ATL. You guys are not going to want to miss it. We will be back in just a couple of moments.
Welcome back, everyone, here to the Atlanta Community Open Finals featuring Rocket League, powered by Skillshot in partnership with CMG. My name's Trevor Caribou McNeil. I got my name right this time around, so we are already starting off better than last time. And of course, still alongside me is the wonderful, the gorgeous, the beautiful bow tie. I mean, come on, man. You're going to prom, and I'm going to like a frat party on Friday night. Like, what? I don't know what happened here. We obviously messed something up there, but so glad to have you alongside me because that's the brains of the operations on that side.
How many compliments can you squeeze into one little sentence there? I appreciate all of them nonetheless, Caribou. Here, we are the dynamic duo together, though, and we are the duo that's going to continue to lead you guys through this Atlanta Open Finals. So far, we've gotten through the entire first round. We are here in the semifinals. We were trying to figure out if we are going to see gambling problems versus Xerox, a couple of technical issues behind the scenes, but hopefully we can wrap those up really quickly and we can figure out what's going to go on there. If we move on to the grand finals, though, either one of these teams is going to have a very difficult time against the team in Ambergesa. We just watched them take a 3-0 sweep over DB, and they did so in spectacular fashion, to put it simply, Caribou.
Oh, yeah, they are very convincing in the way that they play, and it's not really surprising to see them in this position after beating out a team like Top Cougars again. I mean, they beat Top Cougars in qualifier number 1. They continued to showcase their dominance, and they did so again today to get out of that round 1 matchup. And this is just a team that is firing on all cylinders. And we both hit the nail on the head thinking that if they can beat Top Cougars, or whoever the winner out of that initial game between the number 1, number 8 seed is probably going to find their way to the grand finals here. Ambergesa has proven us correct in that one. And as scrappy as the bottom half of that bracket is between Gambling Problems, Night Garden, Copyright Name, and Xerox, those are all relatively evenly matched teams, but I still don't know if it's enough to be able to match up against the likes of either Ambergesa or Top Cougars. Just the random luck of the draw that it was, they both get a round 1 matchup. So instead, we find ourselves here in the semifinals number 2 between Gambling Problems and Xerox now. And as we've mentioned, it is going to be a very close matchup, a very close game between these two because of the fact that they've already played each other once in qualifier number 2. Gambling Problems took the edge out in that one. So now Xerox, knowing that, are in an uphill battle, technically speaking, but we haven't seen them play yet today.
Yeah, that's the big thing, is that we haven't seen them play today, and if there is a day where Xerox is going to be able to flip this one on its head and take the win against Gambling Problems, I think it's today. Like we said, Gambling Problems did not look as impressive in the first series as we might have expected. A lot of issues with the rotations above and beyond anything else. A very strong team when it came to their offense, and individually, great skill on both of the players, but when it came time for them to try and pull off some team plays, get some really good passing plays, they just didn't find the same sort of success as a team such as Ambergesa was finding on their offense. Yes, it was a difficult round 1 matchup for them, so that definitely did contribute to that, but it's still one of these things where it felt like Gambling Problems were not quite hitting the nail on the head with most of their plays. They struggled in a lot of different areas, which left them incredibly vulnerable to counterattacks, and if they do the same thing here against Xerox, there's absolutely a chance that Xerox can take the win here and get some revenge upon the team that lost them that second qualifier.
Yeah, and we've set the bar there because of what we've seen as the faults coming from Gambling Problems, right? You know, their hyper-aggressive offensive play style, sometimes it just leaves them wide open on the backside. Their defensive rotations are a little lackluster. They can't get back in position in time. And if their offense isn't working, then that is every chance for another team to be able to beat this Gambling Problem squad, whose offense, when it does work, works very impressively because they are 2 of the best individual players, top 100 solos, as you've so elegantly put it, because we don't have this information without you. So this is why you are so crucial to this operation, because otherwise they're just names on a screen to us. But if they are working, then it works very well for the Gambling Problems team. But it's just a matter of, can they get it to work? Can they get in sync and get that team working together? Not in sync the band, but in sync on Rocket League. We're not going down that road. We're not getting DMCA here today. I thought about it, but I'm not going to do it.
We'll try our best not to
That's a huge
at this
difference
point.
maker.
I think that, yeah, like you said, though, seriously, jokes aside at this point, it really is going to be all eyes on gambling problems here. Obviously, Xerox, yes, there are going to be eyes on them, trying to figure out what type of strategy they're going to come in here today with, but we know the strategy for gambling problems. The question is whether or not it changes up, because again, super capable team, incredibly confident every time they hit the pitch, but sometimes that confidence can be a hindrance for the team. They really do throw everything at their offense at so many different occasions, and when their offense isn't necessarily performing at 100% efficiency, that leaves them vulnerable for so many different options of counterattack. So this is going to be an interesting one. Again, for gambling problems, this is going to be one of these things where they really need to come out the gates firing, but we might have a little bit of an update here. Sounds like the technical problems haven't necessarily completely been resolved. We might just be heading over to the grand finals here, where Ambergesa are not only going to have a lot of momentum going into this grand finals, but now they're going to have to face a gambling problems team, which is not going to have that semifinals to try and iron out some of the kinks that they've had issues with in that first round.
Which I think is even more problematic for the gambling problems team, because not only did they have those issues in round number 1, they had it against a team that was relatively evenly matched with them, but now you've gone this duration of time without playing, and Ambergase is fresh off of their series, so it's hopefully they were staying warm in the background, waiting for their matchups to come through while that first semifinal matchup was going on, expecting to play in their semis. But if they haven't been staying warm and they haven't been playing for an hour and some change now, then that might be a little bit more problematic in the sense of maybe your team isn't going to be playing how you wanted or expected it to. Also, maybe you probably didn't expect to be playing Ambergesa in your next matchup that you did play, because that's the other side of the bracket. But instead, thumbs up, you're at least getting second place, if not first. So that's a little bit better than third.
Yeah, it's absolutely. It's not only a difference in money for this tournament, but it's also, again, with the amount of teams that we've had in this bracket, just being able to say, hey, we placed second amongst this list of players is a huge accomplishment in itself. Yeah. So gambling problems at this point, they're going to have probably their biggest test of the day. Bar none, they're going to have to come out the gates firing. If they do not do that, this could be another opportunity for Ambergesa to just find enough momentum to take the series in 3. I don't think that it's going to happen. I actually do think we're going to see this one go back and forth. A big thing I have noticed a lot when it comes to Kiernan, back when he used to play as Rob Kiernan, it was one of these things where he really did play to the level of his opponents. If you gave him a really high-level team, he all of a sudden popped off. So that could be what happens here as gambling problems come into this one. They don't necessarily underestimate their opponents like they might have done in Series 1 for the day, and they really give a good run for their money. I'm hoping we'd see that. I really do want to see a great back and forth between these two teams here, Caribou, because this really does have the makings to be one of the best series we've seen in all of this entire Atlanta Open for the month of August.
Yeah, going to be an absolute great series between these two teams because of the capability, right? And there's a margin of error and a little bit of excess on the side where, okay, yeah, in theory, everything works perfectly for both teams. And then we have this incredible series. It's immaculate. It goes down in history as one of the greatest 2v2s ever played in the history of time ever. But not everybody always plays perfectly. There's, as you've said, there's always mistakes that teams will make in any given day, any given game. So, which team can really capitalize on the mistakes that the opponents will make? Who's going to be able to step up? I'm not going to be so brave as to call this one a 3-0 for Ambergesa. I don't think that it's going to be that convincing, but I do think Ambergesa still is going to win out in this series. I think give it a 3-1, optimistically 3-2. But I don't know if Gambling Problems has enough to stop what we've seen Jala Ding and Louis P putting together, because they put an entire highlight reel together in those 3 games alone that's worthy of a 10-minute highlight reel. I don't know if Gambling Problems defense is going to be able to stop that.
Yeah, I mean, that's the biggest part of the team that's going to, really be critically analyzed here in this next coming game. The first game of the series, I really do think, is going to be extremely influential on the outcome overall here. If gambling problems can, fix a lot of those issues they've had on their defense, I think we do have a really good back and forth of a series. But again, it's if they do that. If they do not, I think Ambergesa are just going to continue to dazzle on offense. But, for a team like Gambling Problems with 2 incredibly capable players, it would be surprising, in my opinion, to see them falter in the same sort of instances for their defense. I really do think they came in today expecting to just kind of be able to cruise through that first round, saw a lot of resistance, and went, oh no, we've got to try and change up our strategy, and kind of lost confidence when they couldn't find their footing that well. They found that goal in game number 5 that all of a sudden set their confidence back up, so I have to hope that they now not only have the confidence to be able to play, but they are recognizing that they need to have the defense as well. We're going to have to find out. It is game number 1 here in this grand final for the Atlanta Open. Caribou, this is going to be a battle and a half, but it is all eyes on Gambling Problems to see if they can correct the mistakes they made in series number 1 for the day.
And of course, just off of the hope that they have been staying warm and staying in position where they can play at the top of their game, because they're going to have to be playing at their ceiling if they want to be able to keep in the conversation of this one. And I'm completely on board with you. I think this is going to be a very influential game. Already we see Amber Gase's offense putting the pressure on. Great save there off of the rip from the upper 90 for Gambling Problems. But unfortunately, they find themselves on this side of the field where, don't get me wrong, Kiernan's a great defensive player, but the defensive prowess we've seen has been in 3s, not in the 2s. So Kiernan's got a lot to do to be able to stop or slow down this Amber Gase offense. And already a couple of shots that probably should have gone in for the Amber Gase side. Instead, now looking for a counter on the Gambling Problems front.
This is looking a little bit too awkward right now for me for Gambling Problems. It looks like they're aware of this bit of rotation that they have struggled with, but they're not necessarily playing without a punch, though. It's just a weird in-between here where they want to play aggressive, but they don't want to play aggressive, and it's not surprising considering this is game 1 in a best-of-7, excuse me in saying that it was a best-of-5 earlier, but the issue is that they also still look solid on offense here. Gambling Problems may be having some defensive issues, but they're just as efficient on offense as ever.
I'm glad you brought that up, that it is the best-of-7 as well, because I completely had forgotten. I was just under the premise that we were still with the best-of-5s. But yeah, grand finals the best-of-7, so feasibly, no way we could have a 3-1. That's not enough. The math does not add up. So I think that gives a little more to a 4-2. I don't know if it's going to be a 4-1 so convincing, but I'm looking for a 4-2 series here. After Louis P's first shot gets denied at the gate, Jaldin gets the follow-up to get a tying goal here. So minute and a half in, we are locked up at 1-1.
It's also showing a bit of a problem that we saw earlier for Gambling Problems here. Yes, their defense might be at least a little more prepared, but the way they approach their defense has got me concerned. Again, Kiernan with the pre-jump to just try and get in the way of his opponents here. We saw that become an issue earlier today because Gambling Problems would start to become a little bit predictable in the way that they played, and their opponents just started to read that. Against a team like Amber Gesa, you do not want to get predictable. You have to keep them on their toes, because if Amber Gesa do have confidence in themselves, they can run wild with that confidence. And 2 minutes into this game, they look just about as confident as ever. They're on defense and playing very prepared. No panic at all as Gambling Problems try to find themselves another goal, but instead, here comes Louis P out of midfield, 50-50 against Kiernan, and then not really much of a bump on Kiernan, but enough to at least disorient him on the back end, and Jalading will play this one slowly out of the half. Amber Gesa doing a great job of keeping up the patience here. They are not pressed to get out of their own half. They're just waiting for that golden opportunity, and as you and I spoke about earlier, Caribou, usually the team who has the greater patience ends up walking away with the win.
Yeah, just watching them to kind of get an understanding of how your opponents are trying to play and what they're trying to do on this one. There was a point where Amber Gesa didn't have a lot of boost to the name, but simple rotations to midfield and waiting for that back boost to spawn as well, keeps them just lurking. They're not really making any moves, but they're just patiently lurking and watching what the other side's doing. Stealth there, almost getting away with the nice steal in front of the net, but the crossbar will keep that one out. So we hit the 2-minute threshold, still tied up at 1-1, and not quite what I was expecting for a little bit slower, a little less offensive, I guess, scoring. I expected more points on the board, honestly. That's really what it comes down to. Like, I can't say the offensive presence, because the offensive presence has been there for both sides. They've both been decently in the box of their opponents and just putting pressure on. But I didn't expect the defenses to stand up like this.
Yeah, that's the biggest thing is that Ambergesa, we expected them to have a pretty solid defense, but for gambling problems, we had a lot of questions about how they'd be able to perform. It seems like they've got a pretty good handle on Ambergesa. It could just be a matter of matchup. Sometimes if you are the more aggressive team, certain teams do struggle against that, and gambling problems are playing that. Oh my word! They are definitely playing a little bit more aggressive than I think they should, but it's going to work out for them. Midfield shot from Stealth will find the back of the net, and Ambergesa left without any answer here. I'm wondering where the defense was here. Oh, Louis P trying to get back, and Jolading saw that pass, tried to cut it off immediately. But my oh my, this is going to be a big win for gambling problems if they can take this one. Kiernan has already beat both of the players in Ambergesa to win the July Grand Final of the Atlanta Open here. So maybe it's just a little bit of a matter of matchup. We mentioned this earlier. Gambling problems just seem to have an answer against Ambergesa, and they're up 3-1 because of it.
Yeah, they certainly have found that answer pretty quickly, and they're just winning out on these 50s, winning these challenges, and beating Ambergesa to the ball. And frankly, maybe that's just a point where Ambergesa just not quite giving the respect needed to the gambling problem side. And, you know, with that little stat coming in of Kiernan beating this team, I think that was in the 3v3s. So that was the squad that Kiernan really showcased the defensive prowess. But obviously through the first 3.5, 4 minutes of this game, defense standing up pretty well because it was tied 1-1. Now all of a sudden their offense is showing their abilities as they've been able to steal the ball, win their 50s, and get decent shots on to stop this one. But Jolading's going to get one back.
And there's the concern. We mentioned this earlier. Gambling problems love to throw their entire team at their offense, and when they do, they leave themselves very vulnerable to a counterattack. I can guarantee you one thing. Ambergesa, now that they have recognized that they can get counterattacks, are going to be going for long shots like that on repeat. Gambling problems need to be careful here. They've exposed one of their greatest weaknesses, and if Ambergesa can take advantage of that, they're going to have a winning strategy, to put it simply. And they might already have a winning strategy here as they are back on offense yet again. Stealth, though, with good 50-50 out of midfield, is going to at least delay that attack. Might actually just cancel the attack altogether here. Gambling problems giving some time and space. Kiernan giving a lot of time and space, but Louis P now going to find the counterattack. This one not going to be in, but it will on the follow-up. Jolading going to finish off yet another counterattack, and I told you this would happen, Caribou. That first one has opened the gate, and here come Ambergesa storming in.
Louis P had such a good play with the one-on-one, and it doesn't get the double touch to go back in. You know you have your teammate on the follow there. Great follow-up from Jolading after a phenomenal opening from Louis P. And now with the 3-3 scoreline, that shot's going to be on target, but will be pushed aside by Jolading. Will be caught and kept alive, so we're not out of this one yet with zeros on the board. Finally get another catch on. They will hit the ground, so we will get extra time in our first game in the grand finals. And what else could you ask for?
I'm not exactly sure, but I can tell you one thing. Gambling problems were absolutely asking for this overtime. So far, they've won every single overtime they have gone to, if I'm not mistaken, meaning Ambergesa have got to be careful here. They love this mental reset, but if gambling problems can't score quickly, this might not give them that much of a mental reset, as we'll go back to the same old, but we will not. Gambling problems continuing with the trend here. 20 seconds into overtime, and they close this one out.
Started with the demo and the respawn, and Louis P was just behind where Kiernan already was. They'll make it 3 for 3 gambling problems in OT. I gave them credit that, hey, you know what? It worked in their opening series, but it's probably not something that they should get used to, and they probably shouldn't rely on winning in overtime. But if it keeps working, if it ain't broke, don't fix it.
I mean, really, there's nothing else to say there. At a certain point, we really did expect this not to work for gambling problems. They had played this hyper-aggressive offense all day. They had played this in-your-face type of play style where they left themselves so vulnerable to counterattacks. And we thought against a team like Ambergesa, yeah, they'd finally start to really feel the punishment of that. They'd really feel the pain of a team who can shoot cross-court and with some accuracy. And while they felt the pain of it in that game, it didn't lose them the game overall. Well done to gambling problems to just stick to their strategy and find a winning way through it, but I have to reiterate the same thing as before. I just feel like this is, once Ambergesa do find that success, it's going to be hard to slow them down. The one thing Gambling Problems has done at this point is made me change my mind a little bit. I think we might actually be able to see a Game 7 here. It does feel like they're not only prepared for this Ambergesa team, but unless Ambergesa find a winning strategy, they might be too prepared for them.
Yeah, I think given the development of it, it's got to be either this game or game number 3 where we'll see uh, that Emergesa strategy develop. If they can find it in that time frame, then I think that that'll be the opportunity for Emergesa to really come roaring back. We just know how fast they can strike and how quickly they can mount a run. And watching already 6 seconds in, they have quickly struck back and they get their first goal.
I mean, I'm not surprised by this outcome, but I'm definitely surprised how it evolved there. Jolading just basically standing still, recognizing the demo was going to come, and that's not good for Gambling Problems. Once again, Gambling Problems had some issues with readability earlier in the game, or earlier in the day, excuse me. They were very easily read when it came to their offenses, and if they get back to that sort of just go strategy without a second hesitation, that's definitely something Emergesa can react to and start to try and counter. And uh-oh, they might just find themselves a second goal here off the backboard. I have to imagine Jolading will be there. Put the shot on target, but it's not enough. Kieran with some good defense, and there is one difference between the first series and this one. Gambling Problems, they may be going to the same old with their offense, but their defense has definitely stepped up.
Yeah, certainly have made a lot more of a defensive stance here, just in this series already, which is really what we needed to see from them because just of what we saw in their opening series. But coming in a minute in, and the only goal being given up was the one off the opening kick, which was just a weird incidental happenstance. Now we'll see a second one though. Jolading, that one is all skill, as both the defenders were in a position where they could have challenged, could have done something different. Kieran instead caught in reverse, and the challenge coming out of the box was not at a high enough elevation to stop that. So we get a second goal now, a minute in. Emergesa has this, and it's a good start for them. It's just very important that they manage to continue the success on the offensive front, because if the offense of Emergesa, very similar to Gambling Problems, isn't working, it is very difficult for that team to find the ways that they need to get a victory.
Yeah, that's the big thing here is that for Gambling Problems, they just need to keep on looking like they're going to be able to stay in this one. And for Emergesa, it's the exact same thing. Both these teams need to have confidence in themselves if they want to win a series. And, uh-oh, that's not great. Louis P. going to just kind of steal this goal from his teammate there. But Emergesa continue to do the same thing on repeat here. They're just making Gambling Problems feel awkward in defense. And considering that is their weakest point amongst their offense and defense between the two of them, I think this is a winning strategy. Emergesa just need to keep blocking Gambling Problems into their own half, waiting until they get uncomfortable, and then taking the inevitable shot that will follow up. Trevor, at this point, I've got to wonder, have Gambling Problems kind of just gotten their one victory in the series? We saw this last time where Emergesa weren't necessarily as completely confident in Game 1, and then as they got further into the series, they started figuring out more and more of a winning strategy. Is this sort of that point here for Gambling Problems? Did they just take the win in Game 1 because Emergesa wasn't necessarily, foolproof, oh my word, in their strategy? Or is this one of these things where Gambling Problems just need that spark of life again?
Both? Can I say both? I think that the Game 1 victory for Gambling Problems really was the start that they needed to have, I think, because if they don't get a Game 1 victory, then I think it's, maybe in Game 3, Game 4, they get one off the rebound of the kick, so it's a goal back at least, but it's not going to be easy by any means for Gambling Problems to be able to steal another game away like they did in game number 1. And I don't want to call it a one-off. I don't want to call it a fluke because they very much deserved that victory and they earned it. I don't think they're not going to win another game. I still will stick to my 4-2 scoreline in favor of Emergesa, but I think that now this is a point where Emergesa has figured out what they need to do, but the spark needs to come back into the Gambling Problems offense, and they need to find that by doing what we see here, getting out of their defensive zone and spend a little more time on this side of the field.
They're trying their best to get this offense together, but they really are struggling to keep this offense together here. That's one of the biggest things that, oh my word, we saw out of Emergesa and we're complimentary of was the overwhelming offensive presence, but this time I'm going to have to be critical of Emergesa. A challenge out of midfield from Louis P, maybe not the worst idea, but where's his teammate? Definitely bought enough time for Jolading to get back there, but no such luck. Gambling Problems now just kind of taking advantage of the mistakes we're seeing out of Emergesa. This is a little bit unexpected, to be honest here. Emergesa looks so clean throughout their gameplay. To see these glaring mistakes from a confident team has definitely got me a little bit surprised.
Yeah, and I'm not going to put all that on Jalding because Louis Pete just took a really interesting angle to be able to get that on with two, at that point, attacking players in your face. Just an awkward angle, and then Jalding, yeah, just not there on the rotation back. But they're able to quickly answer back and get a goal back in favor of them. So at least on that front, they're able to make up for the mistake that they made on the defensive side. They get something back very quickly, 5 seconds later on the other front. So it's still a positive, I guess, net neutral, really. But I still think that there's more to take away from it from the Ambergasa side, that they're still in control of this game, even with one mistake like that. I mean, you can't make multiples, as we said. The more mistakes you make at this late in the stage of the bracket, teams will punish you and capitalize every single time. If you give up one or two, I mean, no one's perfect. So Ambergasa, that's their one. Maybe you get one more, but don't make it a habit.
Yeah, that's the big thing. Just make sure to not make it a habit here, because Ambergasa do not want to give extra confidence to the team that has already taken a game here. Gambling problems out the gate take the first one. But now all of a sudden it's looking like Ambergasa do have a winning strategy. 1, 2, 3 left on the clock here. And with a 6-2 lead, I just don't see Gambling Problems getting back into this one. The goals have been far and few for them. Within about 4 minutes of play, they've only scored 2. To literally triple that amount would not be easy here at this point. But they're going to try their best. They're definitely going to at least hope for a goal for the road here. Similarly, though, if Ambergasa can find themselves a 7th, that would definitely be a confidence strainer for Gambling Problems. And again, it really does feel like both these teams struggle with that. When they don't have confidence in their play, they don't really know what to do. And while Ambergasa are starting to find confidence, it seems like all that confidence from game number 1 for Gambling Problems has drained away, and they just can't seem to find it back.
Yeah, any amount of momentum that they had, it has seemingly just funneled out, and it's all gone to the other side for Ambergasa. Looking at this scoreline and looking at the way that they have played, I mean, you cannot expect much more from the Ambergasa squad in the way that they are playing and the way they are performing. I mean, this is a championship caliber team playing in a championship game. Gambling Problems, the same. And they looked like a championship team game number 1. This time around, they've just been outclassed in this individual battle. But this isn't just a couple of battles. This is an entire war, a 7-game war, if you will, where you have to be able to take your losses in stride and move on into the next. This is going to be one where they're going to have to take it, realize what they did, try to find an answer back on the offensive front, and find a way to stop what Ambergasa's figured out on offense, because we both agree that Ambergasa's offense, they've found a rhythm, they found a formula that they are going to get this game and try to work on another one.
Yeah, I think at this point, this is just one of these things where Ambergasa, keep doing what you're doing. However, for their opponents, they just need to go back to the drawing board and try again. Gambling Problems at this point are not going to be playing poorly, I would say, but they're just not playing to the level necessary here. A lot of small mistakes are starting to compound into greater issues for the team, and it's just the same sort of thing right now. It just kind of feels like Ambergasa have a read on their opponents. They did this in the semifinals. I can assume they did this in the first game of the day here, because this is kind of what the team does. They will let you start to play your own gameplay, but once they figure out a counter to that, they just keep on doing it on repeat. And for Ambergasa here, it's that little bit of in between passive and aggressive. They will let Gambling Problems throw everything at them if it means that they're going to have an easy counterattack. And that's just kind of what it is for Ambergasa here. Efficiency over everything. And I really do feel like this is kind of the beginning of the end here. Gambling Problems did not play a poor game, but unless we see a crazy change from them, I just don't see this series going back in their favor.
I can't say I'm going to see it back in their favor. I still am going to get benefit of the doubt that they can take one more game, just because of some incident where it just, you don't see Louis P. and Jalding playing at the top of their game. You know, something happens where, okay, a couple of crumbling mistakes, whatever it is, what it is, we lose that game. That's okay. We'll come back and win the next one, win the series. So I'm still sticking with the 4-2 line. I still think that that's where, because just the benefit of the doubt, that I think Gambling Problems can figure something out. But I agree in the sense that I feel like this is where Ambergasa is really going to start to ramp it up here as we get into game number 3 of our grand finals. Of course, the best of 7. So this is, again, now locked up 1-1, call it a best of 5. Can Ambergasa find their answer on offense once again?
If they can, oh my word, if they can survive, this is such a nerve-wracking play. What exactly is going on here? Kiernan just barely going to make the save. Gambling Problems with a huge opportunity to strike early, and they do not, and that could cost them dearly. Again, Gambling Problems, a team that really thrives off momentum. Part of the reason they were able to take the win in game number 1 was because of the fact they had so much momentum in their favor after that first goal, but no such luck this time. They tried their best, but maybe Kiernan in a 1v1 play can do something. Yes, he can. The dribble from the 1v1 King will continue to show his prowess. Once again, Gambling Problems take the early lead. Can they hold on to it this time, Caribou?
Nice little flip up over the top to get them up over 41 seconds in. They get the first goal, and that's, again, a good start, semblance of the series where they get the first game victory. Now they're in a position where they get the first goal here in game number 3. So if they can continue to maintain the pressure that they've applied early on in this game, I think it bodes well for Gambling Problems. But we see Embragasa slowing it down and just waiting for someone to make a move. Louis P gets the first defender to bite, goes up and over the top of the second one. And that is enough to get a tying goal here 14 seconds after the first.
That is textbook in every single sense of the word there. Embragasa know the strategy they want to come in here, and they have studied it well. They are recognizing that Gambling Problems is still a little bit nervous, and they are taking advantage of that impatience and that nerve-wracking just kind of panic. And oh my word, are they doing a great job at absolutely exploiting that. Louis P with the cross court here, and it all started from this touch from Stealth. Panicked out at midfield, wanted to keep it away from his opponent, but all he did was set them up. Gambling Problems running into the same issues as before here, and like I said, this could really be the beginning of the end.
A really good read there off that touch as well from that miscue, and now we'll see if they can at least try to somewhat stifle the offense from Embragasa, what they can do. But even with 2 players on a commit on the offensive front, that is going to be a huge dagger in the back right there. Both of them just trying to put velocity on the ball. Jalding just slammed the door in their face, and Louis P is going to take it the rest of the way.
Oh my word, things are really going from bad to worse right now for Gambling Problems. It kind of feels like they're starting to get back into their own head a little bit too much. This was something they struggled with earlier in their first series of the day. After taking a 2-0 victory, they completely flopped for the next 3 games, and unfortunately, I was going to say, they don't really seem to have a grip here. Kickoff goal in their favor, though. They did get a kickoff goal last game, though, and it didn't change much of the momentum. Maybe this time it can matter a little bit more, considering it's brought them back within 1.
Yeah, because the last time they got it, they were down a little bit more. But yeah, the fact that they're only down a single goal here bodes better for them in the potential of this one. But we also know that how fast this team can strike back. Louis P almost getting a favor from the crossbar, a little IOU, but instead we'll get sent down onto the line. Now we'll just get the possession back the other ways. Gambling Problems trying to fight over midfield. Jalding's going to send this one down towards the corner, where it will be caught by Kiernan, who's going to pick up that back boost. Get stolen away. The demo on the back onto Jalding, though, is going to be able to slow this attack down. But it's not going to get much farther past the midfield line just because of the presence that we continue to see from Embragasa keeping this ball on the orange side of the field.
This is their favorite strategy right now. They're just locking Gambling Problems into their own half and just keeping it so incredibly difficult and awkward for them to find momentum. This could be big, though. Kiernan does have the redirect, but it doesn't really lead to much. Again, another all-out offense for Gambling Problems as they still do not find success within it. And Stealth in a really awkward position in the corner here. This could be bad. Embragasa, the shot not on target, and Kiernan just barely keeps that one out. Embragasa with a huge chance to kind of just put a dagger in this game, and instead they get counterattacked and scored on. Stealth gonna put in the 3rd for Gambling Problems, and we're talking about a lack of confidence for Gambling Problems here. Embragasa, after not scoring that one, have got to be questioning themselves.
Yeah, a real interesting turn of events there after just what you thought was going to be a great opportunity for Embragasa to put one on the board. Instead, it very quickly goes the other way, and Stealth capitalizing on the rotation coming back and gets the ball to go across. And now again locked up here, 3 goals, and this is a team now in Gambling Problems. It seems like they have figured out and been able to at least slow down the Embragasa offense and not let them play the game that they really want to. But seeing Louis P carry this ball down, get the back boost, and still hovering around it, can't quite get the touch to get the center or to play off to Jalding, but you know that they are right on the precipice for both of these squads either one of them they're on the edge of being able to take this game by storm. Oh, and that might be the first one.
Gesa gonna do themselves the best job possible in order to try and take this game here. A nice pass out of the corner, and Louis P. This had to be pretty well shot, to be honest. It looked rather prepared from Kieran as he was able to cover most of the goal, but top right, that will be enough. With just about 100 seconds left here, the question is whether or not Gambling Problems can find themselves another goal and force in overtime. They will not do it, just barely off target. Gambling Problems have found a lot of safety in their kickoffs. They have done a great job at getting a number of kickoff goals here, but that one was almost necessary. They are now into the last 90 seconds of gameplay. Unless they can find something spectacular here, it's looking like Ambergesa will take this game and give themselves a lead on the series. Oh, but it's not going to be that easy. 60 seconds left, and here comes Kieran on the counterattack. Stealth, though, overcommitted, and what could have been a huge 1-2 punch turns into just to kind of a half of one. Gambling Problems, again, sending everything at this offense, and every time they do so, they leave themselves so vulnerable to a counterattack, and it is so concerning because this is becoming a repeat problem, Caribou.
Yeah, and just the extra added insurance on that one, it is a sigh of relief here for Ambergesa, but there's just not enough that Stealth can do to get back in time. Kieran in position, but it's just a reactive play of you got to guess the one-on-one and see which direction they're going to go. Either commit hard to the right side, and then they redirect back to the left, or you just try to play it slow and guess that they're going to redirect left and pick the 50-50, guess wrong, gets the fifth goal, 2 goals up now for Ambergesa, and this looking like it's going to be their second game to take here. What a redirect. What a pass from midfield going across the momentum to get it back to Louis P, who puts it inside the right post. What a pass. What a shot.
Oh, my word. And that could be spelling trouble now for Gambling Problems. Not only are their opponents starting to understand what type of offense that they're going for, additionally, Ambergesa are just starting to figure out their own offense as well here. It seems like Gambling Problems just are scrambling to try and figure out some sort of success, and it feels like they've been playing from behind the entire time. Even when the momentum is in favor of Gambling Problems, they don't seem to have a grip on the series, if that makes sense. A lot of teams, they will kind of just trade back and forth in who's in favor, but it kind of felt like Game 1 was in favor of Gambling Problems, but since then, there has not been any moments where it's been in their favor. Ambergesa just doing a good job of keeping a calm, collected head here, and it's going to give them game number 3, win number 2 for the team. And now we're down to only 2 more for Ambergesa. If they can pull off the next 2 in a row, they will be our Atlanta Open champions for the month of August. And I'm going to be honest, I have full confidence after that one. We were wondering, you said it might go to 4-2 here. I don't know if we're going to see a second game out of Gambling Problems unless they correct a lot of the mistakes they are making, both on defense and offense. They just look too panicked to be able to take a game.
I mean, to give them credit, the first half of that game, they were keeping pace with that. They were going blow for blow there with the opponents of Ambergesa. But yeah, it just really at a point started to crumble out from beneath them, and they would eventually then give up a couple extra goals, caught out of position, rotations not coming through, the defense just not set up properly. So I agree with you in the sense that it looks like Ambergesa is starting to pick up the pieces and recognize, okay, this is the faults. It's not in our stars, the fault's in their stars. So but now we're going to be able to take this win and move on from this one and move into game number 4, where you can expect more of the same, really. I mean, Ambergesa, even when they start out from behind, even with Gambling Problems, getting the first goal and being able to hold on to that one for about 45 seconds to a minute, there's just not a lot that they can do follow up from that to be able to add on to it. A 1-0 lead against a team like Ambergesa is not nearly enough.
No, that's the big thing here, is that they need to never let go of that grip here, even when they feel like this one is going to go heavily in their favor. Gambling Problems need to keep on pushing here. Ambergesa definitely do have the momentum in their favor right now, but that does not mean that Gambling Problems are out of this one by any stretch of the imagination. If they can find themselves an early goal here and take momentum in their favor, I definitely think they can still stay in this. And are they going to do that right here? Louis P, in a very awkward position on the backboard, just barely able to make the save. And once again, it's Gambling Problems out the gates as the first team on offense, but they just don't have the efficiency, and now they have to try to survive another Ambergesa offense here on the other end. Again, it just feels like Gambling Problems are running into the same problems on repeat, and they just don't seem to have an answer.
Yeah, Jalding picks up both of the back boosts as well to keep this pressure up, and Louis P comes in with almost full, but that pinch going back the other way. All right, we'll take those. Completely calculated, meant to do that, by the way. That's enough to give Gambling Problems their first goal, even after their initial attack fell flat. They get a nice little pinch on the backside.
That's huge for Gambling Problems. Within the first minute, they are up 1-0. Like we said, that is not enough for me to say that they're going to take this game, but it's going to give them confidence, and it might just give them a second goal. No such luck. Jalding with some more stellar defense, and again, that's the big issue right now for Gambling Problems. Even if they take momentum in their favor, Amber Gesa just have such a strong defense that it is very hard to find a convincing lead over them. They do have the 1-0, and they've held on to it for now, and they'll go back to another offense here, but I really feel like a 2-0 is almost necessary if they want the win. Additionally, they need to also not let Amber Gesa try and get back into this one. Cross-court shot, this is off target, but maybe the follow-up? No, Stealth not quite able to, but that's an easy shot for Kieran, and Stealth will just get a little tap to secure it.
Yeah, great initial approach there, and Louis P did the right thing to be able to try to step to that and disrupt, but after that point, it's just a matter of the opening is there. Jalding's not in position. Louis P's caught out in the corner at that point. So one of those two, they're going to get the ball across the line back of the net. So this is the start the Gambling Problems was looking for and needed to continue to have. Getting a 2-0, make it a 3 now. Still going to carry this one. Not even trying to fly under the radar. Going way up high, holding on to this aerial and just putting this one across the line. Enough of a side spin as well. Louis P overcommits to the left side. So now with a 3-0 lead. It started with 1. That wasn't enough. Now with 3, I think this is a huge difference maker for Gambling Problems. And this might be the second game they're looking to take.
I mean, listen, at the end of the day, momentum is such a huge factor in Rocket League, and this is the momentum we were talking about that Gambling Problems needed if they wanted to take a win against Amber Gesa. They needed confidence in themselves, and they needed to just get this offensive efficiency together again. And Gambling Problems have done exactly that. They're up by 4 with not even 2 minutes gone in this game. As long as they don't start breaking down on defense, which is genuinely a large concern for this team, they should be all right. But just as I mentioned it, the caster curse had to show itself at some point today. And here's the first big defensive blunder for Gambling Problems. This could spell trouble if they lose too much confidence.
I think that this is probably the strategy Gambling Problems should go with. Is score as many as you can, as fast as you can, and try to hold on to that lead for the rest of the game, because it's not going to be easy to stop Amber Gesa, but if you can add on to it at any given moment, you might as well. Stealth is going to do that after a couple of little bumps in front of the net. Jalding just, unfortunately, is going to hit the post, can't get back in position in time, so both of them at awkward angles to try to stop that attack. So now a 5-1 lead, but I think this is the key. Gambling Problems take the lead early and hold on to it, and now momentum completely on their side. I hate to say it, and I've seen a 6-2 scoreline go the other way with this much time, but I think Gambling Problems is probably going to win this game.
I'd have to agree with you here for a number of reasons. This also just doesn't look like the Amber Gesa team that we are used to. Amber Gesa, we were complimentary because they were just kind of letting Gambling Problems play into their hand. And all of a sudden, they go down by a handful of goals, and it just looks panic for Amber Gesa. Finally, they do get a goal in their favor here, and with over half the game remaining, it is possible, but they need to be careful here. It does kind of feel like Amber Gesa are trying to match Gambling Problems' pace of play rather than trying to set the pace of play a little bit slower and make it a little bit more comfortable for them.
Yeah, which is interesting because we know both of these teams have a decent success rate at playing fast and slow, and Louis P just gonna take that one solo. The defense not even stepping up to the occasion, and just Kieran gets caught out a little. Jaw doesn't even get a bump. It's just an awkward angle. Kieran has to take a little bit wider return to try to avoid that, which is enough to get the disruption in. So 10 seconds after I said 6-1, I don't think they can do it. 6-3.
Oh, and another offense yet again. Louis P up for this one. If his teammate can distract enough, this should be a goal, but Stealth just barely getting back. But Ambergesa have found their confidence in offense. It is not even a question at this point whether or not they think they can win this game. It is clear that they have the confidence and they believe in themselves and their ability to come back here. And honestly, if I were them, I would also think the same. Jollading a little bit too far pushed out here, but it shouldn't be the end of the offense altogether. Ambergesa continue to press the issue, and with Kiernan on 0 boost, this could be trouble. Louis P, good 50-50. Can there be a follow-up? This is high, though, and Jollading cannot get back in time. Gambling Problems definitely looking panicked on their own end, but the unfortunate truth is that's not enough. Ambergesa need to keep scoring goals in quick succession. Not scoring on that offense is going to be an issue because the clock is ticking down, and with under 2 minutes remaining, they need to be successful on these offenses and also not give any other goals to Gambling Problems.
Yeah, and Stealth had a really good challenge there at midfield to stop and slow that one down, and now it goes the other way after Kiernan takes this ball out of the air. Stealth with the follow to get a nice little touch on. Kiernan left that one floating in the air for Stealth to come in. And as soon as you say don't give up any more goals, they give up another goal. And I think at this point, you take what you can while you can from Ambergesa's point of view, but you got to chalk this one up to, okay, here's how we need to stop or slow this offense down because Kiernan and Stealth have found something, but they just have to be able to maintain this through the next game.
They just need to play a little bit more consistently because, again, look at another goal for Ambergesa. It really does feel like you said that's the way they win here, is just straight up outscore their opponents. As simple as that sounds, because that technically is the way you win every game of Rocket League, but seriously, overwhelming offense is going to be the key to victory here for Gambling Problems. We were critical of it earlier in the day because we were hoping for a little bit more defense, but now that we've gotten further in the series and we're starting to learn that's not really that much of an option for this team, they have to go to their bread and butter and stick to their guns and just keep going for offense on offense on offense here because, again, it just doesn't seem like they are capable of playing a rock-solid defense against their opponents here. They can play pretty well, but it's their offense that is going to be their key to victory, and as they score an 8th, I think they have secured themselves game at number 4 here. Ambergesa, I do want to say this feels more like they lost the game than Gambling Problems won it.
For sure. And I think it's all started with a really good opening 60 seconds for the Gambling Problems side. I mean, they just were able to apply the pressure, get the lead early, and then just maintain that one. They put on 4 goals in 90 seconds before Ambergesa even got their first one. So that's really, again, to back up what you and I are both saying at this point, Gambling Problems just outright need to overwhelm the opponents with the amount of points they put on the board. And it doesn't matter if they do it in the first 90 seconds like they did. I mean, obviously it helps with the confidence boost, but with a 9th goal scored against a team like Ambergesa, I mean, granted, yeah, at this point they probably recognize the situation, and it is what it is. I mean, you still have to play some semblance of defense, but you don't have to go full tryhard mode because you know you're going to lose this game. But this is the routine Gambling Problems need to do. This is the formula they got to do. Score a lot and just contain Ambergesa. You don't have to control them. You don't have to beat them into the dirt. You just have to contain them. Because Ambergesa is still going to put up 4 or 5 goals. As long as you just completely
don't give them the
decimate them on the other
don't
side.
Give them too much.
Fine. Yeah.
I think that at this point, it seems like both teams kind of have an answer for each other. Gambling Problems know their way to victory here, as they've taken in Game 4, is just continually press the issues on offense and make that awkward defense for their opponents. Similarly, on the other end, though, for Ambergesa at this point, it's one of these things where as long as they are able to contain their opponent's offense and can find those gaps in defense, they should be in this one as well. So it's very interesting. I really do think that that tidbit that we talked about earlier, where Kiernan had beaten everybody from Ambergesa at a certain point in other instances of the Atlanta Open Finals, is starting to shed some light here. It's just a difference in matchup. Sometimes you have this where strategies for each team don't necessarily collide against each other in an even way, and for Gambling Problems, it kind of seems like this strategy they're employing for this matchup is just something that Ambergesa is not comfortable playing against.
Yeah, it was one of those instances where we saw Kiernan on a trio squad with Smokes and Toxic, if memory serves correct. And that was a point where with Smokes and Toxic on your team, you don't really have to worry about playing an absurd amount of offense because you can just kind of relegate to sitting at that midfield, you know, rotating out of defense. And we saw the impressive defensive prowess that Kiernan has on that squad because, frankly, all three of those players are insanely good at Rocket League. So you don't really have to step up and be the offensive carry for that squad. But knowing that familiarity with your opponents, knowing what they can do, because you get to sit back and just watch the whole time and just spectate virtually, then it gives you that just a little bit of an edge understanding your opponents, what they're trying to do. So now with the series locked up 2-2, go into game number 5. We thought it was a best of 7. No. We thought it was a best of 5. No. Now we're down to a best of 3. And with momentum as the conversation topic, Gambling Problems should be in control of this early stages of this game because of the 9-4 victory they just put up. And Ambergesa, we know, can strike very fast.
And indeed they will. 20 seconds into this one, and Ambergesa find themselves a cross-court goal, and oh boy, this just, I don't even want to try and criticize what happened out at midfield there. Gambling Problems already know the issues they just showed to their opponents, and again, this was the big thing. Gambling Problems, if they want to take a win, it feels like they literally have to take an early goal and take an early lead at that. Considering they haven't done this here, this could be trouble for the team. They do not want to panic and start playing too aggressively because, again, if you do let Ambergesa get a big enough lead, they will just take the game outright. And oh my word, they're already trying to do so. That shot just barely off target here. But Ambergesa are looking for that 2-goal lead, and they are pressing the issue very aggressively.
Yeah, and the amount of pressure that they are already putting on is, I think, bodes well for them. But watch the counter here. Kieran gets the little layup off the backboard. Even the follow's not going to go. Unfortunate that they can't get a tying goal off of that one, but instead they still maintain the pressure on this side of the field. Louis P gets a nice touch there to clear it out. Will get demolished for that. Charlton going to hold this one, take that back boost out of the corner, go for the backflip with a little bit of style, but not enough momentum to put it across the line. And Louis P comes in for the Saviors. The defense is not on screen, question mark. Ambergesa gets the goal for it.
This is so unfortunate. Louis P just kind of doing what he can, trying to keep this one away, but this is the issue we've been seeing for Gambling Problems. Like we said, if Ambergesa can lock them into their half and just keep them vulnerable for long enough, usually they will find themselves a goal. Similarly, though, if Gambling Problems can find themselves enough shots, usually they can keep themselves in the series. The issue is they haven't really found themselves a good shot in this game here. Oh, and I don't think they're going to find one from this either. Stealth now, the last man back, has to try and play this one as patiently as possible. Louis P lurking in the wings is just making this an issue, and as Stealth does not get a great 50-50, and Kieran just has to desperately try and get to this one. It's another lackluster offense here for Gambling Problems, which, yep, is not going to result in anything. Louis P very comfortable there, and as this one pops off the ceiling, I believe Joloding should be able to carry this out of his half pretty confidently. Stealth trying to press the issue, and this is rather concerning. Yeah, Gambling Problems throwing everything they could to just try and keep that offense alive, but all that really does is leave you exposed on the other end. And Ambergesa, it was just a waiting game, but eventually the clock ticked down, and they found that opportunity.
Joloding just patiently waiting on the wall, and with almost full boost there, just has to win out on that 50, which does so by brute force. And at that point, just full boost all the way down, full send it. That's going to be an easy take for Joloding and Ambergesa to put them up 3-0, coming up on the halfway point. And this is kind of where we were at in game number, what are we in, 5? So game 3, when Ambergesa really started to pour it on. We were wondering, is this the time now where this is the rest of the series? Gambling Problems able to find a way to strike back. Now watching another shot on. That's going to sneak inside the post. Going to be a 4-0 now, just before that halfway mark. And now, serve return to you, Bass. Is this where we see Ambergesa take this series if they go to series point?
I mean, I don't want to say yes, because this is more than anything. This is evidence of what you and I were speaking upon earlier, that momentum is one of the biggest factors in Rocket League. If you can find yourselves an early enough lead and really find that confidence as a team, you can just carry that throughout your matchup. And this is what's happening right now. Ambergesa found that early goal. They found a couple more on top of that, and they just continue to pile on the pressure here. The momentum is entirely in favor of Ambergesa, but my concern comes with if they don't get this early lead and get this early amount of confidence, can they do the same thing in game number 6? If Gambling Problems come out the gate and take another early lead, I think we see a game 7, but the question is whether or not we can see that from Gambling Problems, because confidence is such a huge thing, momentum is such a huge thing, and it's kind of just up to luck for them. If they can find themselves an early goal in game 6, I think we see a game 7. But if they do not find some sort of change-up of the momentum here, I think that Ambergesa are just going to take this one from here on out.
Yeah, they really have looked significantly better in this one compared to the last game. But I'm in agreement with you. I think there is a threshold that Gambling Problems has to meet to be able to just outscore their opponents. And I think it's a 3-goal lead, whether it be 3-0 or 4-1 or regardless of the order the goals are scored in. I think it's a 3-goal lead in the first 2 minutes that Gambling Problems has to maintain if they want to come out with a victory in this next game. Because right now, obviously, this one's going to be going to the Ambergesa side, barring a miracle from the Gambling Problems side. But there's something to be said about how this team responds, because we saw in a similar fashion, Game 3 Ambergesa looked really good. Game 4 Gambling Problems looked really good. Game 5, here we are, Ambergesa side. Game 6, by history, should be a game where Gambling Problems can find an answer back very quickly. But now you have that extra added nth degree of emphasis that it is series point. They only need one more win. Is that enough to put just a little more tilt on the side of Gambling Problems that locks them out of the series?
It's going to be an interesting start to game number 6 for sure here. At this point, as Ambergesa find themselves a 5th goal, it is all but said and done. One interesting note about this game that has been a little bit different than the other games we played so far, this is a shutout. Gambling Problems have not been able to score through almost 5 minutes of play. Usually Gambling Problems do find at least a little bit of momentum in their favor. They find some success, which makes them feel like they're in this game. But this one, this is by far the most one-sided we've seen out of any of them. We saw a 9-4, 9 goals being scored in favor of Gambling Problems, but I still say this is more in favor. Ambergesa just look to have an entire read on their opponents. Heck, they haven't just read the chapter on how to beat their opponents, they've read the entire textbook and memorized multiple lines. Ambergesa look entirely in control of the series right now, and my question really is to Gambling Problems, what are they going to do to try and stop that? Obviously, goals in their favor at the beginning of the game is going to be huge, and that'll give them a lot of momentum, but relying on early goals is not a strategy. They need to come into this one with a little bit of a different strategy and a good enough mindset that they really feel confident without having to score those goals.
Yeah, and it's going to be interesting if they can either have the mindset going into game 6 without the goals, because there is something without the other, right? Like, you can't rely on, like, they can't rely on winning in overtime. They can't rely on getting 4 goals unanswered in the opening minute of games. So there has to be something to give and take on both sides for both the mental and the offensive capability of you. Either you just abandon the mental and just full send into full chaotic evil mode and just say, I don't care about defense, I just want to score, and score all the time, and that's it. And maybe that works. Maybe that is an option that they have, because they did put up 9 goals in the game before last. So there is a chance that that is an answer. On the other side, maybe they just find a way to slow down or stop the Ambergesa offense. But I think it is a very interesting note that you bring up, in the sense that that was a shutout. So after a 9-goal game, you get 0. Like, that in and of itself is a lot. But instead, we find ourselves going to game number 6 with Ambergesa up 3-2. Potential series point here for the August Atlanta Community Open Finals. See if Ambergesa can take it here and now.
And tried their best here, and this is really going to be an interesting game. I do think that you are correct in saying that this is the one where Gambling Problems just kind of say, screw it, throw everything that we've got. Let's throw the kitchen sink included at our opponents, play as aggressively as possible. They want to try and take away this momentum as much as they can, but unfortunately, it's not going to work out to start off with. Kiernan with that aggression, that throw it at their opponent's sort of play style, and all it does is leave Stealth in an awkward position, and unfortunately, Ambergesa doing Ambergesa stuff, Jollading puts his team up by 1. And if they can hold on to this lead, this will be the end of the series, Caribou.
And that is probably not the start you wanted to see from the Gambling Problems side, but never mind. That's okay. You didn't want to give up an early goal, but if you're able to make the read off that great challenge on the wall by Stealth and good comms, because Kieran was going to go for that initially, but you see him pull off and just go to the corner waiting for that 50. I love seeing that confidence that your teammate can win that 50, can put it in position where Kieran is able to get the redirect, put that across the line. Great cohesion from Gambling Problems on that play.
Ooh, and some good defense as well. Stealth with a phenomenal save. And where was this the rest of the series? Gambling Problems finally showing their defensive prowess, and then they almost give up an own goal. The shot is off target, obviously, but Gambling Problems with the most back-and-forth gameplay, showing absolute defensive prowess and then leaving the net open and then getting demoed on the other end. I don't even think Joloding was going for that demo. Now it's basically a 1v1 because Louis P has time and space, and even when the second player gets involved, it will not be enough. Gambling Problems really panicking throughout both sides of the pitch in that play, and unfortunately, it's going to give away yet another lead to Ambergesa.
Yeah, called that one almost a 1v2 because he gets over the top of Kieran and then recognizing that Stealth has the angle on it, puts a little juice behind it to get a bump on and push Stealth out of the way. So great awareness there. Double demo, and this one's going to leave this door wide open. So Kieran's going to take this one in uncontested. And as quickly as we see one goal scored, we see the answer back on the other side.
I cannot believe what I'm watching right now. It truly does feel like Gambling Problems have taken the everything but the kitchen sink strategy and are throwing whatever they can at their opponents. But here's the thing. Normally, when you do that, your opponents just kind of go, all right, we need to play calm. We need to make sure that we don't give them too much momentum. Otherwise, they will take the series. Instead, Ambergesa, what they're doing is going, all right, you want to play like that? Sure, let's do this. And they're just kind of throwing everything at them as well. This is an absolute bar brawl at this point. And I'll be honest, I'm excited to see it because this means we're going to see some stellar goals and some high-octane gameplay. The action has not stopped here as we get back into another Ambergesa offense. 50-50's a flying Louis P trying to keep this one together. Where is Joloding? They're going to play passively. Ambergesa, like we said, we thought they were going to try and match the energy of their opponents, but I guess Joloding wants to play patiently, and it will work out in his favor. Ambergesa take a second to break down the pace of play and regain the lead.
Kieran does a good job to get back, but at that point, just a little too far forward. Can't recover from that one. Joloding placed that perfectly. Even without hitting the post, if that slides inside of it, that is a position Kieran cannot get to. It's a well-aimed shot to give them a go-ahead one more time, but we know as quickly as we see a goal scored, we've seen an answer back on the other side, but Louis P trying to break that rhythm here. Instead, went for the fake's going to miss out and going to try to go the other way at least, but I mean, for both of these teams doing this, I mean, and Gambling Problems living to their name right now. There's a problem in gambling. They have put all the chips in the middle of the table, and they have forced Ambergesa to make the call, and just like you, I am here for it.
Oh, absolutely. This is going to be a battle of a sixth game, and it's a battle that Gambling Problems are not going to back down from. This time they win the hand. The question is can they keep taking them and possibly take the table 3-3 here with 2.5 minutes remaining? This is kind of what I was more expecting after game number one. Once it started to slow down a little bit and we started to get, you know, that back and forth of one team takes the victory, the other team takes the victory, it was kind of surprising, to be honest. I expected this back and forth where both teams kept it close the whole time. This time, Ambergesa continue with the trend and they score a goal. The only difference is that usually it's a kickoff goal in favor of Gambling Problems.
Yeah, Stealth just incidentally bumped that one up and left it there hanging for Ambergesa just to get a strike on and put the shot on target. There's no defense back just yet. They haven't set up. So halfway point, 7 goals scored, and this is all offensive fireworks from both sides. And I'm loving the gameplay and the approach that both these are taking just because of how back and forth it is and exactly what we expected in a phenomenal series between two phenomenal teams. But now it's just a matter of who's going to take the edge, because eventually something's got to give somewhere that'll give. It won't be a 1-goal lead. It won't be a tie game. Eventually someone's got to take the 2-goal, right? Like, it's got to happen.
It's got it. It just feels like if we don't see that 2-goal lead, we're inevitably going to an overtime. And again, that's where gambling problems probably want to be right now. They have not lost an overtime here today, which is huge for the team. They just seem to have that confidence. Once that clock ticks 0 and they get that restart kickoff for overtime, they just turn into another team. They have yet to get past the 30-second mark in an overtime at this point because they just immediately take a fire at their opponents. So 90 seconds left, your gambling problems are probably just eyeing up that overtime. They do not care if they take the win right now. As long as they can force OT, they should be able to find that confidence and possibly get that mental reset to force a game number 7.
And that's the biggest factor of it, is that it's just literally just one goal. All you need is one, and with a demo on the front side, defender's gone, there's the one you needed. Minute 12 to go, and they're going to be able to tie this one up here. And I think now you can start to look at, all right, we got this one back. Now we can look for the angle to try to get the go-ahead goal in the closing times. Ambergayso on the same side. They want to close this series out here and now. But you bring up a very good point in talking about the overtime paralysis of gambling problems, because in their overtime games, 6 seconds, 11 seconds, and 21 seconds. Like, it does not take them long to get a goal when it gets to extra time.
I just can't believe how efficient they are once they do get to that opportunity. But here's the thing. With 50 seconds left, they're not guaranteed that opportunity at all. Ambergayso are still eyeing up a chance to finish this one off in regulation. They definitely would prefer it. They do not want to leave it up to chance with the golden goal scenario. If they can finish this right here, right now, not only will they take the game, but they will also take the series. Again, Ambergayso on their 3rd point. They only need one more to secure themselves $350. It is a huge chunk of change for this team, and it's something that they've been eyeing up this entire day, dominating competition thus far, but they've got one last task in gambling problems. And at this point, it's a task that is looking like it's going to have to be completed in overtime. 10 seconds left. The last offense of the game I thought would go in favor of Ambergayso, but gambling problems not even letting them out past midfield here. Louis P trying to get out past midfield, and I think he just might be able to. He'll at least set up his teammate. This one off the backboard. Can someone get a follow-up? Louis P will just barely keep this one up, but can they get the shot? No, it goes the other way. Had that been a little bit more air underneath it, gambling problems would have finished this one before overtime, but we'll go there instead. OT, and for gambling problems, just a chance to not only continue the series, but go 4 for 4 today in overtimes, and what a stat that would be.
Ambergayso just saw their life flash before their eyes with that extra time shot, but now Louis P's gonna take this one outright immediately. Gambling problems lose one overtime game all day long, and it's the last game that they play in the grand finals. A 5-4 end score, a 4-2 series. Ambergayso, the champions of the August Community Open, and I'm speechless. That the last 30 seconds. What a finish! Like, holy.
That is what we were hoping for. That is everything that we were hoping for.
Wow.
Not only do you get your prediction exactly correct now, Caribou, as it is a 4-2 victory in favor of Ambergayso, but they do so with the Game 6 that we had been hoping for. A back-and-forth battle, both teams taking shot after shot after shot against each other, and it finishes in overtime, the golden goal scenario. And I'll tell you one thing, gambling problems, you might not have won the overtime, but you did do one thing. You made sure every overtime you played in today was under 30 seconds, continuing with the trend 20 seconds into overtime, and Ambergayso take the victory and become your Atlanta Open champions for the month of August. Congratulations to them. Not only are they the champions, but they take a good chunk of change home in $350. Caribou, that was everything we were hoping for in a grand final.
I could not ask for anything more. And of course, we started from minute 1 opening line of today that we expected Ambergayso to be in the grand finals and have a decent chance because of that initial matchup that they had against Top Cougars. They took that series in a 3-2, arguably would have been their most difficult series all day. I think gambling problems probably gave them a run for their money there at the end, but that was a phenomenal day of competition. Watching all these teams play, we saw gambling problems and Night Garden play, which was a great back and forth as well. And what gambling problems barely got out of the first round compared to how they ended up here in the grand finals, the performance they just put up, a tale of two completely different teams.
100%. Gambling Problems should absolutely be proud of the performance they put on in that final game, where we were critical of their strategy in Series number 1. As the day went on, we started to understand why that was the strategy they had chosen. That overwhelming offensive pressure, that uber aggression that team showed turned them into a nuisance in the side of every single person that they saw. That thorn would never stop poking as they got to Ambergesa and continued to put the pressure on. The unfortunate thing is, though, Ambergesa, they were just a bit too tough. It really did feel like that team, when push came to shove, they were very prepared for everything thrown at them. Aside from a couple of games where they were caught off guard, this was by far a very impressive performance out of Ambergesa.
Absolutely. And every time they've shown up, they have shown up to make it to the finals. They've qualified out of qualifiers 1, 2, or 3, and they get to the finals, and they always find their way, if not to the finals, they're in the semis, like top 4. Like, this is a team that when they play, they are here to play, and they're here to win, and they continue to do so, similar to what we see Top Cougars do. And it's unfortunate we couldn't see that as the grand finals matchup, because I think that would have been just as good. But I mean, the way that we just saw Gambling Problems play and the way that game ended, I want more. Like, I'm ready for more. And fortunately for everybody, we have more. September tournament series. You can go to checkmategaming.com and sign up for the qualifiers there. Sign up now. You can play in all of them if you want to. You don't have to, but you can. And qualify for the grand finals to be a part of this incredible community that we have built up here. We've had over 400 unique teams play in across the last few months. We've had the luxury of seeing some incredible players, some incredible teams to filter through. And I'm so excited for another month of awesome Rocket League action. Bassett, it's been a pleasure to have you here. Any closing remarks, any closing promotions that you want to give?
No closing promotions necessarily. You know where to check both me and Caribou out. Confused Caribou and Bass from the Past online, as well as also make sure to go give some support to Skillshot as well. The guys who were able to throw all of this here today, make sure that all of this had happened. Again, huge shout out to CMG as well as Microsoft ATL for all of their support here. This has been an incredible tournament. I'm always elated whenever you guys allow me to come back here and get into the booth and just cast what is some incredible high-level Rocket League action, and that's exactly what we got here today. That finals delivered in every single way, shape, and form. And I just hope that we get to see the same sort of action next month. You guys here at Skillshot and with the Atlanta Opens have been able to do such an incredible thing for so many months. And like you said, the series will continue here. Next month, we will be coming back with even more action, and I just cannot wait to see how it ends up.
Very excited for all of the above. Bass, thank you so much for joining us. Always a pleasure to have you. TriCast, imagine, win. But for all of those, the rest of you watching both on Skillshot and Xbox, thank you so much for sticking with us. Congratulations once again to Ambergesa, the August Skillshot Open Community Champions, walking away with the $350 prize pool. Shout out to all of the production team behind the scenes, as well as our TOs and all of the tournament team to make this such a smooth and easy organization and system that we have gone through for these competitions. One more time, thank you all so much for watching, and have a good night.
the drop.